Good night, Barbados. Good night, Barbados. It's Wednesday, April 24, and it is 7 p.m. right on the dot. And we are here. We are connected. Yes, the people are connected. The powers, we're connecting together, whether we in the diaspora or we right here. We connecting, we joining hands, and we're doing things. People were doing things. Did you see? Did you hear that the PM is pulling back that Drax Hall thing and she's putting it here? She's put another one she's putting on hold, people. Another one she's putting on hold. And someone said tonight, look what we have done. And I said, you are so right. We meaning the collective, the 246 power, those here and those abroad. Those in England, let me tell you, the international press was pressing. The international press was pressing. And this is what we're going to take some courage and some strength from that. Bannantyne, we're going to take some strength and some courage from that. Joe's River, St. Joseph, we're going to take some strength and courage from that. Let the Buster spirit rise up in us, the 246 power. Huh? We're going to do this up. As it was in Drax Hall, so shall it be in St. Joseph, so shall it be in Bannantyne, people. Oh, yes. And so shall it be all over Barbados because we're taking back what is ours. Let me tell you, Bajan people rise up in here full of passion and say, what? By what? With whose money? Who for money you going to use, man? Your money. Who is supposed to pay back this over 8 million Barbados dollars? Over 3 million pounds? Bajan say, what? And my girl, she see the Guardian and all of them papers, and were ready to march out on her over there in the UK. Let me tell you, blogs were going, and my girl, she put it back. I feel like preaching. My girl, she put it back. And I tell you, as it is, or as it was in Drax Hall, so shall it be all over Barbados, including the Parliament. We're coming for that. We're taking that back, madam, including the Parliament and the Senate. We only have 2 in the Senate. Now you watch it. We're coming back for everything that belongs to us. Lord, I am excited tonight that 246 power. Oh my Lord, Buster and Nanny get all up in the people. The Buster and the Nanny get all up in the people. And Lord, we lift up our voices. And let me tell you, my girl had to say, you know what? This look too serious. And especially the international press, right, CG? Good evening, CG. We're good by manners. I'm too excited tonight. Are you sharing, guys? Don't forget to share, CG and everybody else. Remember the algorithm. We needed to share. We needed to share, like and share. Like and share. Great things are going to be said on here tonight. Tonight we have a great lineup for you, you know. We have a lineup coming up. There's Glenn Murray is coming on. Sean Tudor is on. Sean Tudor coming in tonight. Different capacity though. Mr. Sean Tudor, Glenn Murray. We have Senator Trisha Watson is coming on. Yes, and she got the belt for you all. Where my belt? Where my belt at? Senator Trisha Watson coming in with the belt for you all. She's gonna lay it on us, all of us on here tonight. She's laying it on everybody on here tonight. My girl walking in with a belt tonight. And we have, of course, we have the General, CASWELL Franklin, CG. Born Again. We have CASWELL Franklin. Sandra, we have Maxine McLean. We haven't seen her in a little bit. She wasn't feeling too good, but she's better. She is better. And listen, the loyal opposition, you know, we love us some Maxine McLean, you know, other than class and diplomacy. But my girl bringing a belt tonight. I tell you, lashes tonight. Some serious lashes going to be bringing tonight, man. Erwin Nurse, of course, you know, Kemar was the first one who said, when I sent him a link, he said, thank you. So my guy's coming and he's got a strap. He got the cat o' nine for them. Michael Harewood, good night. Robert, good night. Vernon Garnes, good night. Marcia, good night. Diana Husbands, good night. Oh my Lord, Owen Hines, how are you doing? Clive Osborne, good night. Listen, cat o' nine in the tail tonight, I tell you. Heathcliff, good night. Just in time, good night. Kay Bowen, how you doing? Patrick Green, yes. Yes, Patrick Green. Patrick Green, you're not going to get any lashes tonight. Patrick Green will not get any lashes because Patrick Green sent in his submission. Mr. Trisha Watson, come on here tonight. I tell you, everybody going to have to duck and run out of this class because she coming with a belt tonight. So Patrick Green did the homework, so he won't get any lashes. FX Training, the Charlene, K. Bowen. Listen, it's a new Barbados we in, you know. It's a Barbados that we don't start with. Nobody gonna walk on us. Nobody gonna take our money and spend our money, and we don't know how the money being spent. That's not the Barbados we live in. That's not us. We're different. We're different people, man. We're different. Tracy Barrow, Victorious Green. Oh, Victorious Queen. Green. I'm talking about money, the green. K. Bowen. Oh, my Lord. Sir Alfred, all the way from Brooklyn, NYC. Listen, the Prime Minister was hearing you all, you know. She was hearing you all. And my girl got to pull that thing back. And that's what's going to happen. They're going to clear out that Parliament. And they're going to clear out that Senate. Oh, yes. Ramin, how you doing, Ramin? Loyal, patriotic opposition. Look what we achieve when we sound our voices. Oh, and put our feet down. No tract to Lord Drax. I love it. No tract to Lord Drax. My girl is a poem. Got to focus and push. No backing down. Operation Rescue and Restore BIM must prevail, y'all. Must prevail. And listen, are we talking not just this show, but did you see people were sending me stuff from the UK. People were sending me stuff from the US, pushing, send kits. All of them pushing us. And what kind of nonsense is that Mia Motley doing in Barbados? And my girl put her tail between her legs and quickly call a press conference, huh? So how you didn't call one on Joe's River? And how you didn't call one on Bannantyne? And how you didn't call one on the people that are up there in St. James and talking about, oh, you're doing this so that, you know, you want to listen to the Barbados people. Since when? Since you did the Republic? And didn't consult us? Since when? Oh, my Lord, do you think we're idiots? But we're taking the victory. Tracy Barrow, Tyrone Blackman, Hasbra, Sandra Carter. Oh, my Lord, I can't call everybody's name tonight. But you know from the heart, blessings to everybody who's on. Make sure you share tonight. Licks tonight. Listen, you've got to share. Get it out. Okay? Share. Listen, folks, we can't do anything without our anthem. We can't do anything without the anthem. What we do without the anthem? Yeah? So listen, folks, listen. That's our banner. The anthem, that's our banner, you all. That's our banner. That's our song. That's our theme song. That is what energizes us. That keeps us going. I would love to know when last those in there, they listen to that anthem. Those that say they serve us. When last did they really sit down and listen to this anthem? And did you know? Interesting. But let's do it tonight as we always do. Yes, you were singing. Oh my Lord. I got back my flag, people. It's upside down. I know it's correct now. But I have my flag, and greater will, and greater will, and greater will our nation be. Growth in strength and unity, and greater will. Let us speak it into being, and greater will, and greater will. Yes. I am excited. Oh my Lord. And look who we have with us tonight. I told you he's going to join us. I told you he was going to join us. This is Mr. Sean Tudor. Good night, sir. How are you?
Good night, ma'am. Good night, and good night to all the viewers. Yes, happy to be here. Thank
yes,
you.
yes. It's a
And
real
happy that we still have a show.
Yeah. We still have a show. We still have a show, of course. Yes. Wonderful. Now, Mr. Tudor, a lot
Yes,
of
ma'am.
people don't know, but you were you were at the Ministry of Agriculture. You were right there. What was your role there again? Remind me.
I was CEO at the time.
CEO. I am telling you, and so this is
Oh,
a
at the
man.
no, not at Ministry of Agriculture. In agriculture, BADMC, Barbados Agriculture
Correct,
Development and
correct.
Marketing Corporation.
Yeah,
CEO.
Barbados. Yes, BADMC. He was the CEO there. And tonight you come to us in a different capacity. You
Yes.
come to bring some encouragement, and you know, listen, we have so many persons out there like Sean that's encouraging, always encouraging me, encouraging the panel. He's a fantastic speaker. You're gonna hear him outside. We've had him on the truck as well at our marches. But tonight he's in a different capacity, and he wants to share something spiritual with us tonight. Is that okay? Something spiritual with
Yes.
he's going to share tonight. So I'm going to let him go ahead and share, Sean.
Thank you so very much, Marcia. And I did see on the Facebook, and it came around in one of the chats when it came around that you received these threatening letters, and I immediately wrote something in the chat, and then I called you to encourage you, and you said, you can just go ahead and share that online here. And it's just so amazing that there's nothing new under the sun. this this very thing has happened literally 2,468 years ago, in 444 BC. There's this story that's recorded in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 2 to chapter 6. Nehemiah went back to Jerusalem to rebuild the walls for the Jews so that they would have some dignity and that their lives could be in much better order. And he didn't go there to fight anyone. He wasn't attacking anyone. He was just rebuilding the wall for the Jews. And amazingly, there were these two, let's say, gentlemen, Sambala and Tobiah, who were extremely upset that someone was doing something on behalf of the Jews. And to me, it was like and they wrote a lot of letters to him, threatening him. To me, it was
Sean,
like,
Sean, for some reason your sound a little muffled. Someone
sorry,
is saying, I wonder why.
sorry. Um, okay, let me just get the microphone a little bit closer
Yeah.
and speak a little bit slower. Yeah, so there was this parallel. There was no whoever these persons are. There was no attack on them, nothing like that. It was just being done for the sake of the people. There was literally no opposition, and this show was birthed, and it provided a platform for people to get to know what was going on, to ask questions, to share their views. But in this story in the Bible, these two men became very, very upset, Sanballat and Tobiah. and they started their letter writing, and the letters became more and more ominous. So they were just ridiculed at first, and then the letters became threats, and then the letters were open letters that everyone else could see them, and then eventually it became a plot. And I said to Marcia, there's nothing new. Someone is upset for whatever reason. We don't know whatever perverse benefit people get out of the status quo as it is. And they, for some reason, they fear. So they fear that things will change for them, that this movement, if it continues, that this show, if it continues, will become a movement and ultimately it will change the status quo. And they started this letter writing. They actually sent 5 letters. How many letters you got, Marcia?
Oh my Lord. I heard that one person alone got about 8.
Yeah, well, these people got to 5, and then when the letters weren't having the desired effect, they went into a plot. So there is a very similar story, but the main thing here that I want you to get is to respond just as Nehemiah did. At first, he just said to them, "What does this have to do with you? We're having a show." He said, "We're doing something for ourselves," and he just ignored them after that. Then, because it became literally a threat, as was, I understand that it's actually become very threatening in the letters. They took steps in the natural to deal with their security and so on. And I'm sure you would be properly advised along that regard about how to deal with your security and so on. But the thing is, he didn't stop. He didn't let it stop him. He said to the people around him, what kind of society do you want to live in? What kind of future do you want for your children? And this is exactly what we need to answer here. Do we want to live in a society where there's no freedom of speech, where you can't say anything, where you can't speak the inconvenient truths to the government and to the powers that be? And is that the kind of society that we want for our children, the kind of future? And he said to them that if that is the case, and this is not what you want to continue, where there is no freedom of speech, where you can't express yourself freely without being threatened, so well, then you can cower. But if that's not what you want, well, then let's fight. Let's fight to keep this show on the road. Let's fight to keep this show going, that Barbadians can express themselves freely, that Barbadians can raise issues, speak inconvenient truth, hold the government's feet to the fire. And that was his response. And the second thing he did, he didn't pay any much more attention to them after that. The next thing he did, he prayed. And I want to encourage all of us to pray for our host, our sister Marcia. Prayer does work. We continue to pray that God would protect her and keep her, because it has been for 2 years. There was no opposition. There was no other means of getting the voices of the people out there. And so let us just spend some time, spare a minute, just pray for our sister so that she would continue to have the strength and have the courage to maintain the show, bring the issues to the fore, because it is truly a benefit to the country and truly a benefit to our democracy. So what we're saying to our host and to our sister Marcia, this has happened before, and they were writing letters, and the whole purpose of the letters, it was said then, was to put fear into Nehemiah and the people who were cooperating with him, so that they would leave off building the wall. And I guess the exact parallel is that whoever is sending the letters to you, they just want to put fear in you, that you would like close up the show and says, I'm concerned with my safety and my children's safety, so I'm going to close up the show. We're not going to do this anymore. No, you're going to continue the show because this show is needed, and the God of heaven who's called you will protect you. Right?
Wow.
Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Sean. And for those of you who, if you read your Bible, you can read Nehemiah. And it's mainly Nehemiah 4. Is it Nehemiah 4 and 6?
Yes.
Nehemiah
2,
4
4, and
and
6.
6. Huh?
2, 4, and 6.
Nehemiah 2, 4, and 6. Nehemiah 2, 4, and 6. Okay. For those that read your Bible in your faith, it might be a different story. But I love the way how you present it as a story that, listen, this has been done before. We've been this road before.
444 BC.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much, Sean, for coming on. And that was very encouraging for me. So I thought that it would be encouraging for others as well. Thank you so much, Sean.
My pleasure. Thank
Listen,
you.
don't be a stranger. Please come every now and again and share what's on your mind.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on the show, and I'll be back. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sean. God bless. Thank you so much. Good night, Mr. Murray.
Good night, Marcia. How are you?
I am doing great. I was hearing an echoing there. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're listening to me on another device.
No, no, it shouldn't be.
Oh boy, listen.
It's unless my voice is becoming very deep. No, I'm in a room. There's nothing. There's no echo. Are you hearing other sound?
Yes, whenever I speak, there is an echo on my audio.
Oh,
Yeah.
ah, I'm in the exact same conditions I normally am. So and there's nothing unusual that's
Sometimes you get
happening.
this kind of interference.
Okay. Well, it
Yeah.
might be outside of our doing. Might be the Americans might be new exercising their new bill to go overseas, authorize them officially to interfere in other people's correspondence, communication, etc.
Yes. Well, Mr. Murray, we are very, very happy. I'm going to just turn off your mic a little bit. So yeah, we are very, very happy to have you on tonight. And I'm looking forward to what you're going to share. You're going to be talking about the cult of personality, good or bad. And I'm excited. Mr. Murray, when he comes, it's something really solid, and he's going back in history. So it's learning time, it's teaching time. So get your paper, get your phone, make some notes, and have some questions as well. All right, so over to you, Mr. Glenn Murray. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you too. Um, I thought Sean should have laid a nice platform for me to continue, and I hope I can rise to that standard. As a matter of fact, some of what he spoke about is related to what I will be saying, and it's because what he was talking about in Nehemiah is talking about is intolerance, and I'm sure, and what has happened to you, and I want to commend you and Kimar for taking the steps that you did with your threatening letters. I think it was a very brave and important thing you did. Because I myself I received one also, but it was not the first time I received one from the author. I've also brought to the attention of the police. As a matter of fact, I already have 8 in my collection. I've kept over since about 2020. I've been getting them from this writer. He normally sets out to insult me. One way of doing it is to address the letters to Mr. Glenn, Tom Murray, Mr. Glenn, Owen Murray. I feel insult if he's a trend. I feel that's a insult. I relish that he's putting me into the company of two very distinguished Barbadians. But I really was aghast at the tone and the viciousness with which he penned the last letter, of which like I said, which I got a copy. Um, and therefore, I thought it was very important that I should let people know that this letter represents an intolerance. This person is writing me, like I said, for a number of years. As a matter of fact, I did some research on who might suspect it is and who I think is the most likely suspect, and he glorifies himself as a messenger of God, a serious Christian, an evangelist. So when you have this kind of thinking, uh, And he always writes me, and my letters are normally coming with a picture of or clipping of Prime Minister Motley and about the awards she's gotten, etc. He always makes reference to Prime Minister Motley. So therefore, he seems to be obsessed with Prime Minister Motley. And what I'm afraid of is that this, when you mix religious zealotry, where you are zealot religiously and you are extremist politically, as he seems to be, like writing all these letters. I understand he's written letters to a lot of other people in Barbados too, consistently. You really cannot take it for granted. And therefore, I think that we've got taken the right step and leave it to the authorities to take care of him and the legal matters in that regard. But like I said, he seems to have this obsession with a hero and a worship of Prime Minister Motley. That's his right. I wish him luck. But I have never. I remember very well reading. You were talking the Bible. I was talking in Exodus. There's a part where it says, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image." No, the likeness. I forget it. It was an early lesson in the Bible that stuck with me. It's really talking about speaking. Don't worship a hero. Worship first.
Yes.
Don't idolize and make no your God on earth. And that way, while I've had worked with some outstanding people, I've admired them, respected them, but I've never seen them of demigods. And this is exactly what seems to be going on in this regard. And before I'll soon get to the cult of personality. But what happens is that the way things are, that we've never had this kind of action before. Of course, the jibes and the attacks and the criticism normally verbal and whatnot. But when somebody goes as far as and some of the words used towards you, and by extension us, because the letter is copied to myself, to Kimar, I think we should take warning and be very wary of it. And it seems to be that then that what we are seeing here is, like I said, religious intolerance, where other persons who do not share your view are treated scornfully, aggressively, anywhere that does not represent tolerance and democracy, anywhere does not represent a Christian feeling. Christianity, as far as I know, preaches tolerance of other religions, other people, other points of view, or whatnot. And I think then that we have to be careful. I've also had an experience. I'll give you a couple of instances of my experience with this kind of threats. In the pre-election 1976 election, I got phone calls threatening my life, and I remember I reported to police, and I had every morning to get it before I started my car to go to work. The police advised me to look under it for any wires, any bomb-looking equipment, etc. That went away, and then I also had an experience where I went to a meeting at Independence Square one night, and Mr. Barr criticized me. I think he called me a journalistic prostitute or something like that. And as the meeting was ending, and I'm using this illustration to show you how people say things, how followers and zealots take them literally. And this lady walked towards my car and said, "Look him there, the journalistic prostitute," and a prostitute pushed her hand into my window to try to slap me. I evaded it, and it was but it could have been worse. I've also had where somebody is taking advantage of my son at school, a teacher no less when he was at primary school. So these things are real, and why people with families and close associates do not relish them and should not encourage them. What the cult of personality? I think we should start by letting you first use slide one. Marcia, yeah, and if you can read it for me carefully so that the public understands the background which I'm coming.
Yeah. Definition: cult of personality. A cult of personality is a product of a deliberate effort to create the heroic image of the glorious leader, very often through unquestioning flattery and praise.
Okay, and that again, that is a cult of person where you're almost putting the person on a pedestal so it reaches the heaven. You're idolizing them. You are making them a godlike in one form or another. Could you go to the next slide, please? Slide two.
Slide two. Cult of personality. This situation has historically been consciously developed and implemented through techniques of mass media, propaganda, spectacle, the arts, patriotism and government, organized demonstrations, rallies, and celebrations as part of modern social engineering techniques.
Right. So this is explain how the creation, the establishment, and the manipulation of a cult of personality is done deliberately, consciously, and there are certain techniques that are employed as Maestro read in that definition. If you can go to slide 3, please.
Cult of personality. Since the 20th century, cult of personality has often been used to refer to charismatic followings and cults which are based on a political leader and designed to enforce and reinforce the power of the leader.
All right, and 4.
Ancient leaders and personalities with whom a cult of personality, a label, was attached included Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Confucius, Napoleon.
Slide 5.
Due to the terms associated with autocratic leaders and their systems of government, cult of personality has developed a negative image and connotation.
So if let us reflect on our Caribbean history, politics, and sociology and culture and experiences, I think that the closest I think that we'd have to Caribbean examples of cult of personality would be something like in the modern time, I think Fob Burnham of Guyana, I think tried it. Maybe Eric Geary of Grenada. That is modern day. But in modern day, in Barbados's history, we've had leaders who have been very popular. Grant Adams was called Moses. Mr. Barr was highly regarded. But there's never been, in my mind, the kind of cult of personality which we've seen being developed now among Prime Minister Bartley, whom this person obsesses over and whatnot. So I think we've gone into a new era. Or the other one example would have been Papa Doc Duvalier of Haiti, etc. Those are the kind of autocratic, strong, tough, non-democratic leaders that would have characterized kind of personality in the Caribbean. But in Barbados, like I said, we've never had that kind of development. We've had popular prime ministers, leaders. They've been called Keep Dipper Skipper. We've had, and it's seen mostly in the methods by which the personality, the persona of the leader is presented. Like I said, Grandias was called Moses because of the role he played in establishing democracy and the right to vote in 1951. Mr. Barr in this time would say, keep Dipper Skipper. How long is too long if it's good? Right? So they were normally geared in the early days. I remember the first Barbados Labour Party campaign in '51. It was just vote Labour, policy, program, etc. But now I remember with Owen Arthur's time, you would find we're going with Owen, we're sticking with Owen, etc. But now we've seen where there is a through the same techniques, through music, through images, through slogans, through social media, where there's this attempt to create a kind of persona of Prime Minister Modi. I mean, she's done well on the international stage, etc. We accept that. Still, we've never sought to have anybody where you dare not even criticize them. Where if you criticize them or you express a different view, you get hostile reaction. All kind of punitive steps are taken against you. As a matter of fact, I'm told, you remember there was when Leader of the Opposition, Ralph Thorne, spoke in Christchurch a few Sundays ago. There's a lady in the crowd, I forgot her name, who was calling out his name repeatedly. I understand. I'm told it is alleged, I report from good source, but it's alleged that when she got to work next day at the NCS, she was fired. So it shows you to what extreme persons can go to demonstrate what they perceive as their loyalty for a person. They might be doing things which people would not call for, but persons by leaders or politicians or figures by their own utterances and behavior might give people the impression that I will be pleased if you do something like that. People want to, and out of their obsession with the hero worship, might feel I'm doing this to please because I'm protecting, defending my turf and my territory. And a lot of it has to do with also with patronage. It's all tied into patronage, where people think they have to protect the patronage from which they've benefited and do anything virtually to protect that, because they think that is what will keep them protected, keep their leader in power, and keep them being heavily patronized. So it is a very real situation, and if you know, if it's been exaggerated, I think, by the emergence of social media, where persons, what do they say? They say they drag you, they cancel you if you utter things with which they do not agree. It destroys any semblance of tolerance and openness and understanding, sharing views, and they go for you, and they verbally assassinate you, so to speak, as I would say in Barbadian terms, for one, because they think they're satisfying this. So a cult of personality is a very real occurrence. What we will remember in the religious field, there was a man called Jim Jones who went to Guyana. I think it was the 80s, around 1980, and there was this mass suicide. It was a religious cult. It was a mass suicide led by the same Jim Jones, a religious figure out of North America. I don't remember the number of people who committed suicide because he has been mesmerized and they so believe in him, and they subjected their minds, their being, to this one persona. He was a cult of personality in a religious sense, but still a dangerous setting in which, especially unstable emotional, this cult of personality and what it entails for persons who believe in or fall victim to it, might feel that especially if it's particularly effective, people have their own shortcomings, their own inhibitions, their inadequacies, and they feel that they need to do something to demonstrate that they matter to by pleasing somebody or doing something outrageous. I remember too how, and persons, especially with psychological problems, some of which they might not even realize exist, we would be very well placed to actually activate and bring to a realization some of these thoughts and their behavior, which they think before even being explicitly told to say or do something, they might decide to undertake it because, like this fellow said, if he's a messenger of God, he could very well start hearing voices who tell him in his mind to do certain things, so the extreme thing, like writing this letter, or he might even take it further after this letter. So we cannot take these things for granted. We have to be conscious of the implications. I remember in 1970s when Prime Minister Tom Adams was delivering a budget speech. A Barbadian by the name of Trevor Eastman, not the very excellent comedian and performer, but another Trevor Eastman, walked up the stairs of Parliament. In those days, security was much more lax and relaxed and open, etc., informal, and walked right up when the Prime Minister was live on the seat, on radio and TV, delivering about and tried to snatch the budget out of his hands. So there are those persons out there whose dangerous behavior can be triggered by all kind of messages, because some of the messages are implied, some are explicit, and there are persons, like I said, who would, once it appeals to them, seek they have a calling to do in that regard. So a cult of personality is not something that we talked about in any major way. Um, it's something it offends people's psyches, their thinking, their behavior, and it is where they seek to create a godlike or a near godlike persona and being for a living person, uh, because it suits their purposes, it satisfies their psychological yearnings or their political leanings or whatever. So it is something that we have to be aware of in Barbados. It is a very real phenomenon. It's this kind of thing you see like almost like like fans when like or Taylor Swift, some of the popular entertainers of the world, where they have these massive followings and people do all kind of crazy things in their name and their image and to support them or to celebrate them. The same thing also obtains in politics. We in politics have been accustomed to a situation where a lot of our criticism of each other has been verbal to a large extent. I remember, Marcia, last week you spoke about, on Sunday night, you spoke about how the Barbadian character has been changed and how the society has changed, how we seem to be heading into dangerous territory with the politicization of our country and the polarization and the camps and etc. And the divisions. Well, personality cults can often drive these kind of things, if either wittingly or unwittingly. And it's a development that we need to be aware of. We need to be make sure that persons come to us to present programs and policies in ways that we can understand. Do not allow ourselves to be hoodwinked, captivated by music and song and dance and few free fair, which is also an old technique that goes back to the days of the Romans. Bread, panis circenses, bread and circuses, where they have the gladiators and the chariots, and they would fight and kill for the entertainment of the crowd, because they felt that that was one way of one way of satisfying these yearnings in the people. And we've all had cults of personality too. Um, did I mention Napoleon, for example, in the other one?
Yes, you
Napoleon,
did.
right? Okay. So these are very real, um, and I think that is once we have to use these same standards, these same criteria, these same event. Do not treat them in isolation, and because of the internet, etc. Persons very easily imitate ways that which we do not believe and seek to copy and demonstrate what they have seen after what they've seen on TV, or because they think that they're doing something, they're trendy or doing something, or they're satisfying some yearning or some cause. So it's something we have to stamp out, give vigorous and serious consideration to, and make sure that wherever possible, that it's nipped in the bud and that nothing is done to encourage it and develop it and make it an entrenched part of Barbadian life, particularly Barbadian political life, which drives the momentum of the country because of the role of government. It is very well that those dynamics can have an impact on the society in which ways we would not always be very well for our well-being. Is there anything you want? Is there anything more you want to ask or raise any questions you want to raise on that regard?
Um, yes, Mr. Morris, so well said. And because of the echo, I have to turn off your microphone so I can speak. So yours is off now, and then I will then turn yours back on. But I thought that this was so excellently presented and really educational, and has me even thinking. And you know what I want to say to us Barbadian, having lived in Jamaica, where we made this big hero out of our leaders, our political leaders, where they could do nothing wrong. If I'm on the green side, then you know that person is perfect. The people on the orange side, that they are perfect, and we sometimes put them up in such a pedestal, on such a pedestal. I want to say to you that even us here on the panel, that let's not put myself, Caswell, Kimar, or anybody up on a pedestal. We are human beings, and human beings can make mistakes. Listen, we love you, and you guys love us. But let us never, 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 never believe that that's my person and they can't do anything wrong. No, 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 not at all. Let us always remember to be able to think for ourselves, Barbadians. Always. Do not run lining up behind anybody. Sit down, you think for yourself and decide what you're going to believe and what you're not going to believe. Do your own research. And one of the things that we've asked for our presenters to do is to bring to do PowerPoints, right? To do PowerPoints so that we can, because we want it to be educational, right? And so on. And I think that this is so important, because if we don't, Mr. Murray, nip this in the bud as we go towards elections, we do not want to see people like this writer and other people start to make, we start to practice gangster politics. It will destroy this beautiful country we call Barbados. And continue to think Barbados, continue to have that independent mind, and do not follow behind cults. Do not follow behind cults of personalities. Don't do that. And I love what you have done, Mr. Murray. Let me turn on back your microphone.
If I can give one illustration of what I'm talking about, one would recall that in the 2018 election, there were instructions given. I'm told that by one of the persons involved, that they should mention Mayor Motley at least 15 times in a 20-minute speech. 15 times in a 20-minute speech. Even though some of them have become so accustomed to that, like even as ministers and whatnot, they have to make constant reference and use her as a point of reference and affirmation, a validation of what they say and what they do. So then when you have the makers becoming a whole campaign, a whole country wrapped up in makers, that is really idolatry, where the unquestioning acceptance and loyalty and following, where the person treated as though they can say nothing wrong and do nothing wrong. That's the way it comes. And I think it's a dangerous, we're the educated society, we like to brag about that, but let's use our education, let's say, as the Prime Minister says, let's deconstruct and reconstruct. Let's analyze, let's pull apart what everybody says or does, so that we make sure we use our judgment and we make the best possible decision for ourselves, for our families, and above all, for the country.
As someone said, well said, Mr. Murray. I love this. I love this. And it will keep us all on our toes, and let us always push, even with our protests. We always push a nonviolent protest. That and if we talk about revolution, we always make it very, very clear that we're talking about ideologies and changing of mindsets, etc. Because we don't want to get into that kind of gangster politics at all. Yes, you hold your views and your thoughts, but we don't need to hate each other because we see things differently. Not at all. Mr. Murray, very, very well said. I'm going to ask you, sir, if you would go out and come back in, and let's see if that will help with the audio, okay? So I'm going to remove you from the studio. You leave and come back in, and then we're going to talk now with Senator Tricia Watson is here with us tonight. And I told you tonight, listen, where's my belt? She is coming in here tonight with a belt for Marcia Weeks and everybody, because she's going to ask you some questions and ask you, have you done your homework? And so she's here. Good night, Senator Watson. Good night.
Good night, Marcia. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes, I'm hearing you okay. I'm hearing
Excellent.
you okay.
All right. Trying to preserve or some bandwidth so that we don't have any issues with audio or video. Been having a few challenges. But thank you again for having me on. And just to allow me to say a few words about the current public consultation that's being conducted by the Joint Select Committee that is reviewing the Cybercrime Bill 2024 and the Mutual Assistance in Criminal Matters Amendment Bill 2024. Now, a public notice came out around April the 12th, inviting the public to make its submissions their submissions to the Joint Select Committee. And
Yeah.
the committee has already started meeting. And so it is important that your viewers pay some attention to what's going on now, both in terms of going to observe the sessions when they occur, and that's supposed to be advertised, but also to make submissions. And first, it's important to note that the written submissions are due by Friday of this week. Good night. Good night to everybody. I can see that folk are saying good night. I hope you're all doing well. And so it's really important to treat this as urgent. And for those people who wish to make an oral presentation, you should simply write and indicate as much. And the committee will be in session again on the 6th of May. I believe they will be starting at 2. So you ought to write well in advance of that time, advising that you wish to make an oral submission. And the committee has agreed that they will permit submissions via Zoom in recognition of the fact that these bills affect people who are residing in Barbados, but also people who reside outside of Barbados. So I think I've covered a couple of things already. We're actually looking at two pieces of legislation. The Cybercrime Bill refers to the Mutual Assistance in Criminal Matters Amendment Bill. We're actually looking at three because since there's an amendment bill, it means that there's also some substantive Mutual Assistance in Criminal Matters Law Act that will continue to apply with some amendments. And I want everyone to note that the cybercrime bill applies to an act that is done or an omission made in Barbados on a ship or aircraft registered in Barbados or by a national of Barbados outside of the territory of Barbados if the person's conduct would also constitute an offense under the law of a country where the offense was committed. And so that's really something that everyone should pay attention to and not, you know, misconceive the situation and assume that because you're outside of Barbados, this cybercrime law will not affect you. It most certainly will. And that's point one. A few other things to note: pay particular attention to sections 19.3 and 19.5 of the bill. And that's let me tell you, the heading for section 19 is the malicious communications sections. And then there is section 21B in particular under the heading cyberbullying. Those are the provisions that particularly have troublesome language. The language is vague. There's language like, causing insult or intimidation, but intimidation is fairly straightforward. Anxiety, obstruction, inconvenience, annoyance, that's under 21B. And under 19.3, the language used is causing or subjecting a person to ridicule, contempt, or embarrassment. Those terms, notwithstanding that it has been suggested that courts have ruled on all of those terms, I suggest not. And those are the provisions that I think will cause the most consternation, ought to cause the most consternation, and will be the hardest to combat should this bill be passed as it is. I also want your audience to pay attention to section 23, which is the search and seizure provision, and section 24, which is assisting a police officer. And that requires you to assist a police officer in conducting the search and seizure, which is highly extraordinary. That is, and the search and seizure provision also relates to crimes that have been committed, are being committed, or quote unquote a crime that is about to be committed. So it's a prospective
Yeah.
application of the bill. Those are very important. sections to pay attention to that you can focus your attention on in making your submissions. So unless your submission is going to be highly technical, so you're a cybersecurity practitioner, not in the sense of hacking or anything like that, but you're an expert, or you can address the discrete legal issues, my suggestion, Marcia, is that your followers apply the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Not calling anyone stupid, but you want to keep it straightforward, non-inflammatory, no insulting language, no personal attacks on the members of the parliament or of the joint select committee. Express your concerns in a very straightforward and respectful fashion. Respectful does not mean that you don't say what you have to say, however. And when you look at the issue of simplicity, the committee itself says that an email containing your submission can suffice. So you don't have to be very elaborate in the form in which you make your submission. As far as oral submissions are concerned, the notice says that they will be limited to 10 minutes, but my observation is that in the first session, the presenter, there was a single presenter, that was the chairman of the Law Reform Commission, and that presentation, including some questions and discussion, which could also occur in your own presentation, was 2.5 hours. And so I'm saying to
Wow.
anyone who thinks that they would need more than 10 minutes to complete their presentation, ask for that upfront. And I think you're not going to ask for 2 hours, but you ask for an extension of the time that they've stated in the public notice so that you can make an adequate submission and not have it truncated because you have that limited time of 10 minutes. An important thing, Marcia, and also looking at why we're doing this, is that it is important to be heard. That's where I want everyone to focus on making sure that you get your submission in, getting in on time to the correct individuals, and to ensure all of that is to ensure that this consultation is meaningful, that it is not an exercise in the optics of inclusivity and then it is brushed off. We have to make
Mhm.
sure that the people's voices are heard, that the people's concerns are taken into consideration, that the people who are doing our business in the parliament, including me, pay attention, listen, but also take what we say into consideration. That is extremely important. And it's not enough to say, I'm going to consult, and then the consultation is just, going through the motions. If
Right.
there are few, if there are very few submissions, or the submissions can be dismissed because of tone or form or anything like that, then that defeats the entire purpose. So I do want the Marcia Weeks family to ensure that they operate in such a way that their submissions will not be dismissed. And the way that it works is that the report tends to include the submissions. And so they're noted and they're appended. So that's also very important when it comes before Parliament, then we can see what has been said. And so press on, don't let the deadline pass, but don't let it stop you if the deadline passes. I'd say still send your submission and not be cowed from sending your submission. I want to encourage everyone to do so. I've said in Parliament that I am not interested in an I dotting, T crossing exercise. This has to be meaningful because this legislation has quite serious implications for public discourse, for freedom of expression in this country, for distribution of information so that we're informed about what is going on, and
Yes.
frankly, for keeping the people in authority, you know, keeping their feet to the fire. That's we've used electronic means to do that. We use electronic means to do our jobs. We use electronic means for our advocacy. That's the way that I have functioned as an advocate in the before the Fair Trading Commission. And let
Mhm.
me just say this: I have it has been said about me in the Parliament that actions that I have taken in the rate case were malicious. And I've been my advocacy has been termed mischievous, and that those kinds of descriptions would fall right within the ambit of this legislation. I'm doing that work electronically because that's the manner in which we send information and submissions to the FTC.
So technically,
Um,
you would be you could get a 7 years or 70,000 as well.
well, if somebody thinks that their feelings are hurt, they can make a complaint. And part of my concern is that there's always this suggestion that the courts can deal with it. But while you wait for the courts to deal with it, let's say come up with a definition or set a standard or a yardstick for what is sufficient evidence, for example, of anxiety, and to while you're trying to combat those issues, you would have been investigated, have your device confiscated and searched and probably retained. You may find yourself charged and having to deal with that. That's time, money, effort, distress, all of those things. And so it's very glib and dismissive to say we can just deal with this in court. Let the courts make those definitions. Then while that is happening, the person who's subject to conviction, not conviction, subject to arrest and prosecution under the legislation has to contend with that. That means there are reputational issues, there are
Mhm.
costs, there are just the normal issues of getting ahead with your life when the whole world can see that you've been charged under the statute. So that's nothing to treat lightly. And the point is that we need the the law will never be exactly or 100% precise. That is
Yeah.
not the issue. But you have to draft for certain things: clarity,
Mhm.
constitutionality, and the user of the legislation. That's all of us who are using these devices, the same devices we're using right now to do this program, have to
Mhm.
understand
Mhm.
what the law is saying to us. And so as far as I'm concerned, these bills do not, well, the mutual assistance in criminal matters is not as problematic language wise, but the cybercrime bill does not meet the standard that we would normally wish to apply when we are looking at legislative drafting.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think those are the key points that I want to make. Another point that I do want to make is that there is some debate as to whether the Joint Select Committee can hear this matter. And it's a matter that I raised in the Senate as well.
Mhm.
What is important to understand is that the Parliament, so the bill has been passed in Parliament,
Mhm.
and so technically the members of the lower house are not supposed to be able to debate the bill any further in this session of Parliament. But they have suspended that standing order to allow for the members of the lower house to sit in the committee and conduct the consultation and produce the report, etc. So that's just something that your viewers should know as well.
Yes, yes. And thank you so much for that clarity. Now, when we talk about submissions, the last thing we will discuss here, um, Senator, when we talk about submissions, some people might feel a little nervous about that,
Hmm.
because they're thinking, "Ooh, submissions. This seems like it's it has to be technical and all legal jargons, legal terminology." Should they be concerned about that? Could it just be a paragraph?
Yes, and I think the very fact that the public notice says it can be an email,
Mm-hmm.
that suggests that they expect that you might submit something that is brief. What I would say is don't just say, I'm not happy with this bill. Say why and say it in your own words.
Yes.
Say it, like I said, in a way that's not inflammatory, that they can't say is, over the top or disrespectful or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And because a lot has been said about this bill, and so people are emotional about it, rightly so. But the point is that you want your submission to be accepted, included in the report, considered. And
Yes.
that's the key objective at this moment. When the reports are filed, the members of parliament get to review the report. So this
Yeah.
is not the last phase of the thing. We do though want to get beyond what was said in committee when it last sat, which was there were only two submissions at the time. Now I know for a fact that there are more submissions since then because people have said to me that they've made submissions, but the more the merrier.
Yeah. So let me ask you, someone in the diaspora, Calvin, what is your question? Calvin is in the diaspora and he's very aware that this could affect the diaspora as well. Calvin, are you asking what is respectful if you can't cuss? Is what he's asking. Is that the question, Calvin? Let me just make sure. Calvin. Well, in the meantime, can you when you say respectful, you're saying to be calm and to be
Hmm.
concise in
Hmm.
what you're submitting in your email. Is that what you're saying, Senator?
What I'm saying is that obviously you're dealing with members of parliament, and they're not going to append material to a report that they think is inappropriate or inflammatory. And so you also don't want people to be able to say, oh, you're just overly emotional and what you're saying is not worth listening to. And it's very easy to dismiss people. That has already happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, we know that's happened in the debate. And the point is, that is not how we want the submissions to be treated. We want the submissions to be taken on board, to be considered, to be included in the report.
Yes.
And so that really is my caution. It's not to say that you can't say freely what you need to say. You just need to say it in a way that cannot be dismissed, really.
Yes. Yes. So, in terms of the oral submission,
Hmm.
um, uh, the email address parliamentbarbados@caribserve.com. That is where we make the request for the oral submission, and this has to be done by the 26th, which is Friday, right, Senator?
There isn't a deadline on when you can indicate that you wish to make an oral submission. I had asked for them to do that so that people are clear. And so I wouldn't say there's a deadline. What I will say is, as soon as you can do that, do it. That's what I would
Yes.
say. Yeah.
Yes, and we want now in turn my last question to you. Let me see if I can find Calvin's question.
Hmm.
Calvin, what is the question? I'm not seeing it, Calvin. Okay, I'm not seeing it, Calvin. Now I had a question for you, and I completely it's completely out of my head. So I've asked you. We know what the email address is. We know about the oral submission. They said they only had two written submissions.
Hmm.
Senator, what should we be looking at? What would be a good representation? Say about 100 submissions or 200 or
Oh my, that's difficult to say. You know, we've had these kinds of consultations before, and depending on what's going on, what the subject matter is, sometimes you get maybe one or two, sometimes you get quite a bit more. So, for example, the Constitution Reform Commission says it has over 200 submissions.
Mhm.
Just make the submissions. That's what I would say. I actually, while I'm here, I also want to point out that there is another section that you also should pay some attention to and comment on if you think appropriate, and that is the provision that allows for a person who possesses the the data or the data storage medium or a service provider offering services in Barbados to provide subscriber information. And that would include telecommunications companies. And so you need to pay some attention to that as well. That is really important. I'm quite concerned about that provision as well. That
Mhm.
essentially can be used, in my view, as a surveillance provision because remember, we're talking about not just crimes that have been committed or are in the process of being committed, but also, what's the language, is about to be committed.
Okay.
And
Okay.
right, so we also have to, so that's section 26 as well. There are other provisions there about preservation of language, and of course there are the other provisions related to cyber terrorism, how data is accessed and utilized. And those, I think you'd have to say some of them are the more technical provisions. Then there are provisions related to child grooming and online child sexual abuse. We do not have challenges with those provisions. Those
Right.
provisions are obviously necessary for protection of, particularly of young people who are using, who are online and operating in the virtual world. And the truth is that's their world, after a
Right.
certain year of birth, that's what they know. And computer related fraud and so on. That's why I've singled out particular provisions as the ones that are problematic, so as to also avoid what has been said, which is, oh, people don't want cyberbullying addressed, or people don't want
Hmm.
cybersecurity addressed. That's not the
Hmm.
case at all. There are
Yes.
certain provisions that we have challenges with, and those are the ones that I would suggest you focus on.
Yes. Our last question, Senator, coming from the diaspora, they want to know how can someone outside the Barbadian jurisdiction be prosecuted under the cybercrime bill?
Right. So
How?
the
Yeah.
the mutual assistance in criminal matters
Mm,
legislation allows for authorities to cooperate on investigations and sharing information and so on. And then obviously conducting an investigation and being able to say, and it requires that there's a similar legislation in the jurisdiction where the person is residing or located. And that then will obviously allow the authorities to cooperate with each other, and cooperation with each other could also mean arrest and extradition and that kind of thing. So it's not that we're just looking at the one bill, we're looking at these two bills and the Mutual Assistance in Criminal Matters Act, but we also are generally looking at how law enforcement authorities will
mm-hmm.
cooperate with each other. So it's not just a case of you're looking at cybercrime bill and only dealing with what happens on the ground in Barbados. I think that's very important for everyone to understand. And of course, it can apply if you're outside of Barbados and return to Barbados. So that's another thing
Yeah.
to pay attention to. Mhm.
Wow. Yeah.
Because it talks about where the effect occurs, not just where the message or the use occurs, but where the impact occurs as well.
Where if someone is offended or feel that they're offended in any way,
Hmm. Hmm.
then yes. Well, thank you.
Where the damage resulting from the act occurs in whole or in part in Barbados is the language that is used.
That is used, yes. Well, thank you so much, Senator Watson, for coming on tonight. I told them you are going to bring the strap because we're not doing the homework, and we only had two submissions. But you see, this teacher tonight, she really soft. She barely, Mr. Franklin, she barely doing like this. Come on, students, you must do what you have to do. So she didn't come with a big strap tonight. But the point is this, that we have to make those submissions, and this is a
Hmm.
very serious moment in the show. Mr. Franklin has been educating us on the bill, so has Kimar, and here we have Senator Watson. We also have um, uh, leader of the opposition, who means the leader of opposition for the entire Barbados, and
Hmm.
he is batting for us as well, and will be doing a lot more. And so we want, and also Mr. Ryan Walters. Did
Walters.
I say that
Hmm.
right?
Yes, there are members of the Joint Select Committee.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you so much, Senator Watson, and we will be calling on you from time to time. You message me, let me know how we're doing, and in terms of submissions and so on. Thank you so very
But I
much,
wouldn't
ma'am.
know. I won't have visibility of that unless
Yeah.
you unless you let me know. But what I have been doing is for people who express concern about whether their submissions will get before the committee. I've just assisted in guiding them to make sure that they're dealing with the correct recipient, etc. This is important. I am very focused on this. I am, Marcia, particularly during the COVID lockdowns. I'm a person who, you weren't familiar with me then. I very often posted about the rule of law and the human rights issues that presented themselves at the time. And that is the genesis of my interest, the impetus for my interest. This is how we communicate. And people would like to say, oh, you're being extreme. But the point is, if there is a loophole, if
Mhm.
there is vagueness and if there's lack of clarity, you potentially it can be exploited. And that's the point. It can be, and
Yes.
so for me, this bill can be exploited as presently worded, can be exploited to leave the impression on Barbadians that they should not, cannot, it would be dangerous for them to comment publicly on matters that would then basically offend people in authority in particular. And we've had a lot of commentary in parliament, at political meetings, whatever, about social media commentators and
Mm.
what we're doing is mischievous or foolish or whatever. They use all kinds of pejorative terms, which interestingly enough would also run afoul of this legislation. That's the irony
Mm.
of the situation. But that happens frequently. It happens. They don't seem to be concerned about the impact that that can have on people's willingness to engage, even though we are constantly told that we should engage. Citizen
Mhm.
engagement is important, but at the same time, we are often browbeaten about our engagement. And so
Yes.
I think this bill could have a chilling effect on public discourse and information dissemination in this country. And we have to ensure that it cannot be utilized in that way.
Yes. Well, thank you, Senator Watson. And we'll be calling on you. And thank you for the work that you've been doing. I know you got your eye on this bill, and it makes me say, yes, we got people in there. We got Rob Thorne. We have Senator Watson. We have Senator Ryan, and of course outside we have our Caswell and our we have this show. We have Emmanuel. We have so many. We must continue
Hmm.
pushing everybody together. It's a 246 people power. Thank you so much, Senator Watson. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I encourage you, get out there, use your pen. The pen is mightier than the sword. Get the job
Hey, I
done.
love it.
Have a great have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks so
Bye.
much. Yes, yes. I almost said Dr. Franklin. Hello, ex-senator, past Senator Franklin. You have been holding this up for us really, really high for us, and so we're happy to have Senator Watson coming on and making sure that we do what we have to do. We have a day left, guys. A day to just write your paragraph, write your feelings, and keep it respectful. And the email address is right there. Just copy it off and send it off. Okay, send off your email. Good night, former Senator Franklin.
Good night, Marcia. You hear me? I've been having a lot of trouble getting in.
I saw, and I'm happy to see you, sir.
Um, the whole evening was there. Came home, no water. I had to do actual dry clean to look presentable on the show, you know, rather than. So it has been a trying time this evening, but I'm here nonetheless. And thanks for having me, and thanks for the people sticking around. I I want to talk a little bit about this same thing that's going on in the House right now, I mean, in Parliament. Senator Watson just said that they have suspended the standing orders so that the people in the House can deal with it. they cannot suspend the standing orders to deal with the bill after the bill has been passed. All right? That is a mockery. If you go into the house any day, or you tune on to the house any day, before any discussion on any bill start, they say, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that standing order 660, whatever else, is suspended for the remainder of the day sitting. Then that allows you to bypass the rules. All right? They can't pass it and then suspend the standing orders to deal with it after they have already dealt with it. So this whole thing is a mockery. They will take your submissions and pretend that they're listening to them, but they will do what they want to do, because right now they have been given the impression that they are actually listening to us. But we know we got to be smarter than that. It says, Senator Watson also, we have had this type of consultation before. We have never had this type of consultation before. Never, ever in the history of Westminster. Westminster being the Parliament of England that we got our genesis from. You do not have a sitting of a select joint committee with people who are not qualified to be there. And no member of the House is qualified to be in that committee right now. Only senators should be there. Because what should happen? The Senate should have started the debate on this thing, and then they say, we have some problems, so let me set up a committee. Because it cannot be a joint select committee, because the bill did not start in the Senate. So it was passed already. So the House has nothing to do with that bill unless the Senate sends it back. So what should happen? The Senate should have sent it back, made their suggestions for changes or whatever, and then send it back to the House to see if the House will agree with their suggestions. The House has completed its work. So this is a mockery. But the biggest mockery, and I am sad to say, because I have held Sir David Simmons in very high regard for too long. And he gets in the Senate and calls people names, mine included, and yours, and some chairs, other else, Kimar. But you can't, as a member, even as a member of the House, you cannot call people names in any debate. Or when you cannot do that. But they brought him in and give him I started to watch it. And my stomach started to churn. And I used to say, well, I ain't taking no more of this. So I ignored it. It was the first time I've ever turned him off. Because he is allowing himself to be used to satisfy this. And he shouldn't be there. He is chairman of the Law Revision Commission. And he said that they drafted it. Law Revision Commission don't draft anything. They look at acts after they have passed, and they decide, look, this is not conforming with this. It should have done this. I make technical suggestions, or even say, well, it's slightly off from the Constitution, and I think you should review it. He does not get in because he has to review his own work. It is like being an auditor, and you are the auditor and the accountant that you're auditing the work. You can't do both. So he is allowing himself, and I don't say he's allowing himself, I think because he was part of it, and this happens to be part of the work that he has been involved in, he has to defend it. It is indefensible. This bill should not be before any committee of Parliament right now. It should be thrown out.
Yeah.
And it should come again.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Franklin, for making that point. And what I want to also say is that, and I totally understand what Mr. Franklin is saying, but I also want to say something that, as far as we are concerned, as citizens, we must understand, and I think that this is what the senator is saying, that the bill in this present form, from what I understand, the Senator Tricia Watson is saying, is that it can't work for us Barbadians. But what I also hear her saying is that make those submissions. So the records say, go through the process, and it's 2 days. Today is Wednesday. Just a second, Mr. Franklin. Make those submissions, and I am in total agreement with her. make those submissions. I'm going to make my submission, and I'm encouraging as many persons as possible. Go through with what is happening. We have our marches that are planned. We will have our shows. We have 4 marches planned for the month of May to deal with this cyber crime bill. So while we're fighting inside, we're taking the fight in Parliament, making oral presentations, written submissions. We are also, and as Dr. Ferdinand is saying, let's use this opportunity to realistically and respectfully submit our concerns in writing by Friday. Let us make this administration know that we are watching them. I believe that process is important. I'm in agreement with Dr. Ferdinand, and I'm saying to us, make those submissions, people. I think it is very important for the record. Let them never say that they had the sessions and this committee and that we did not have. No, they had no submission. Make it. We're gonna hit the streets. We're gonna do several things. We're gonna march 4 marches. We sent to the police for 4 marches, because this is so important to us. And we are galvanizing people. Today I was on the phone calling up people from all different walks of life to be part of this. This will affect every Barbadian. I'm calling young people. I'm calling up UE students at UE. I know you have exams, but I still want you to write those paragraphs and to send them off to the Parliament. Yes. I think that is important, so that we have a really balanced picture on what it is that we are saying. But Mr. Franklin, there's some stuff out there.
No, because I want to speak, because I think you're not listening to me.
Oh,
I am saying to you, even though what I'm saying is factual and I can prove everything that I'm saying,
yes,
you got to call them out. You can't allow them to say, well, we had these committees and nobody took part, or nobody was, so they're happy with it. You cannot let them get away with it. When they go there, you must point out to them that this is as a matter of fact, I have already arranged with someone to go through with the standing orders and show them where the errors are and the mistakes that they have made, so that they can make that as part of their presentation before the committee. Of course, the committee will rule it out of order, but it will be on the record. All right? So I am not telling business don't speak up, because I want you to speak up. Because I can't be on this. I am on this program for the last 8-9 months telling you to speak up. You get the opportunity, speak. It will not fall on deaf ears. It will fall on deaf ears in that Parliament, but it will not fall on deaf ears in the people who will be watching it. And that is what you have to do. Because it is a sham. We know it is a sham, but we have to call it out for the sham that it is. You know, I am upset, and I'm really upset that they would unleash, and I can't keep saying unleash the David Simmons on us. And he should know better. He is a respected, or well, up to today, as in my mind, to me, respected. I lost a lot of respect for him. Respected person in this country who should know better. And he has. I told a reporter yesterday who spoke to me on it. I said, I look up to this man, and you know what it feels like to me? While I'm looking up to him in adoration, he spits down at me, hit me in the face, because that is what he has done. Going there talking about us on the show and all kinds of things. He should not do that. He knows better. He was in Parliament. He was in Parliament for over 30 years. He knows the rules. He was leader of government business in anything. And so they would use anybody or anything to beat us down. And I'm ashamed that he would have allowed himself to be one of the people to beat us down. I am so upset with him. It ain't funny. Look, I was his personal assistant. And we've had a very good relationship all these years, up till now. Because I can't tolerate his condescending way, so far the part that I saw, because I watched the rest. And the way he tried to insult us. That is what the government will resort to. This is the government of Barbados who want to treat our citizens and our elder statesmen. You know, I saw the definition of statesman some years ago in a little book. An American politician said, I think it was a former president or something. He said, a statesman is a politician who has been dead 10 or 15 years. Because, you know, you can't come back now and make these kind of bad behaviors because statesmen, you don't lose it. He has lost that status in my mind. He is not. He has no like kicked down all the things that he has helped put up and has defended over the years for the sake of the Barbados Labour Party and their nonsense.
Yeah.
Highlighting the fact that he got somebody sending him some thing about oral sex thing. He the first boy get it. I got some too, and when I got them, I told the people. I wrote on the because it was a chat, and I said, you do not know me well enough to send this kind of nonsense to me. If you do it again, I will take it to the police. I went on a joint sitting in the Parliament and tell nobody. He was trying for sympathy.
Yeah.
You know, I try to make people feel like also, Mars, let me go on because all of these things about child grooming already exist in the law. So if we didn't have this bill coming up, so they are taking it from in the law and then putting it in this one. Since they're already. So but they put it in here to make people say, oh, but if you don't do that, you would have this thing with child grooming and all kind of stuff. It's already there. And even if it was not already in the statute law, it would be there in the common law because the common law is the common law changes with time as it develops as you go along. So you can, for instance, go in any statute book in Barbados, study law statute, and see look for the definition of murder. It's a common law offense, and it's defined in the common law. So everything does not have to be in statute. So when somebody go and trouble a child brother on the internet or go out there and say dirty words to them and thing, it's already taken care of in the law. Okay. But we already have statute law dealing with it. So why repeal it and then put it back in this one to make it look as though you are trying to defend people? It is a sleight of hands. It is a kind of behavior that they wanted to give it. But you see, we are protecting children. These children were already protected in the law. So you're repealing that law and then put it back in place to say, oh, you see what we've done? And tap your chest. No, it is bad. Marcia, I am so tired with these people. It's funny, you know.
Yeah. Senator Watson, just, you know, she's agreeing with you actually, and she had said it earlier. I don't know if you had heard her, but she's definitely agreeing with you. She says that she understands your concern and that she's raised that in the Senate already, and she said the matter isn't finished. That she will continue to speak on the procedural issues in the Senate. And so she's just asking people to send in the submissions. They're going to deal with that there as well. As of course you are making us aware of it, and you have been. I think it's probably the third or the fourth time you've raised it on the show.
Can I stop?
No, not at all. And so she says that. And she says, tell him I have and will continue to speak to the procedural issue in the Senate. She's just asking the people to send in the submissions, and she will be speaking particularly to the Joint Select Committee and in the public consultation. Okay, so she's definitely, in agreement with you, Mr. Franklin. She's just asking people to send in those submissions.
Okay? Marcia, one thing you must always do. Whichever club you join, read the rules. I was a senator. I read the rules. And I did not only read the rules for the Senate, I read the rules for the House to make sure I am on good ground. Many times I get ruled out of order for things that were not out of order, but they don't want me to say it in the House. But, you know, sometimes you have to sit down and because you don't want to look like a bully and misbehave in the Senate because it's a place of decorum and that kind of stuff. So I allow them to get away with things that it would have caused confusion, and I might only end up getting put out because they can put you out even though you're right. But this one, they can't put me out of the Marcia Week show. Correct. And I'm going to say to them that there are trampling on the rules. They're ignoring the rules and treating Barbados as their little plaything. It has to stop. They have to follow the rules. You know, the rules were not made to be ignored. They were put in place for a reason. They were put in place to stop tyranny. And right now we are in a tyrannical situation where the people have given the Barbados Labour Party that power to be tyrannical because they have all the seats. Basically, well, they hadn't got one less now. But with one seat in Parliament, even though I know Ralph would fight and fight hard, and Tricia and Ryan would fight as well, you know, it is a battle that is a Herculean battle. You can't you're going to fight, and you will always find a way. They will always find a way to try to ignore you. This one will not be ignored because
no.
I am not going to allow it to be ignored because Tricia mentioned it, and I'm going to say it again. So David Simmons gave the impression that this will only affect you if you were telling lies on people and the lies were defamatory. That is not what is borne out in the legislation. Tricia cited section 9, clause 19.3. That is what it says in there, that you, whether it is true or not, it is true or false. So imagine getting locked up for saying something that is true in Barbados. That is what this government and Sir David want to do to people in Barbados. They want to lock you up because if you say things about them, even if it is true, and they don't want the truth to be told, they can feel hurt, they can feel embarrassed, and then you can end up in jail. And that was just, I am ashamed of him. Because he should know better. You know, and so they can't, Marcia, this is indefensible. Defamation. There are defamation laws already on the book. But I am not a lawyer and I don't want to be a law lecturer. But defamation must first be untrue. Your statement must first be untrue. And then, if it is untrue, then it can hurt. But if it is truthful, you can't defame some person with the truth. The only place now I realize that, I've said it before this program, Barbados now was probably the only place where the truth will not set you free. The Bible says that the truth will set you free. But Barbados now has even defied the Bible because the truth will get you locked up in Barbados.
7 years. 7 years.
7 years and $70,000. So even if you tell the truth, you go to jail for telling the truth. Lord, what will happen to you if you were lying? And Sir David, of all people, can defend this, a former Chief Justice. He has me so ashamed, Marcia. Honestly, and then they're going to call my name. I am pleased, because you cannot call people's names unless you give notice to the presiding officer before the thing starts. And I did not see or hear that he had given any notice. He could have gone in there and talk all over his face, as he did, and mislead the public, as he did. But certainly, leave out people's names. Because what will happen now, as have happened, we will get little yellow letters.
Yes.
Because of this.
Yeah.
Because, when I thought the yellow letters were few and far between, just between Kemar, Freddie, myself, I had Glenn get a handful. He contacted me to say that he got some too. So what he has done would give people more impetus to continue to do that nasty behavior. And I am calling out, as Freddie did, for the Prime Minister to come out and say she is not associated with it. She decries that type of behavior, and she will condemn anybody for doing so. She got up and she talked about Drax Hall. Talk about this too.
Yeah.
Talk about this too. She made a statement about Drax Hall. Marcia, I tell you I'm going to talk about something else, and but this thing, if I didn't come on here, Tricia, I would have been calm now, But this thing gets me angry.
Yeah.
When people can think that we're idiots.
What I love is that we know Barbados, that the passion that Mr. Franklin has, it's for us. and he's educating us and at the same time fighting for us. And this is the bill I am saying to us, Barbadians, all of us that's on tonight. I'm saying to everybody, everybody who is watching now, and if you're watching later, this bill must not see the light of day in the present form. It must not. And that's all Mr. Franklin is saying. It must not. And we join in with his passion. We need to be as passionate as he is about it. Make those submissions and let them know. Let them know. Let it go on a record. Whether they want to recognize it, as Mr. Franklin said, it's a big sham. And I believe it's a sham. They're not serious about it, but we are serious. And that is why anytime you hear the marches, there'll be a march the first Saturday in May, the second Saturday, every Saturday, right? I think except the last Saturday, we are going to be at they're pushing the health fair, the health festival. But Mr. Franklin, we're going to take that passion to the road. We're going to educate the people. We're going to write, do our submissions, make the oral presentations, write articles. Listen, May is fighting month. We're fighting.
Marcia,
all the way.
you
Yeah.
know, if the act is passed and come into force in Barbados, they sure done. You know that.
Correct.
Emmanuel with his politically incorrect, he gone. All them things gone. All the thing you will get will be the Barbados Labour Party speaks. And that's all you will get. Because nobody can lock up them. So even if the Dems come out and they hold up their meetings and they stream them, they're gonna lock you up too, you know, because it will affect you on streaming. It's that bad, you know. Look, these people want to be dictators, you know. These want to be Stalins.
Yeah.
They want to be.
Let me hear, Miss McLean. I know you didn't come on here to talk about. We're so happy to see you. Some people were asking me how you're doing, so I don't know what they know, and I don't want to say anything. But it's good to see you.
I will say you will see that you see the new me, and I heard you say it wasn't that I was under the weather. I was under the ophthalmologist. I guess you call it not knife, but what did
instruments?
they
Instruments.
Yeah, his instruments. I have one new eye. I will soon have another eye. I mean, it tells you something about my age. I had cataract surgery, and so I was telling a friend that this is the first time in over 50 years that I'm going anywhere without my glasses, having started to wear them at 10 years old. And Caswell, the water is back on. Don't worry.
Oh, good, thank you.
So I'm happy to be here. Perhaps doing more than I should. I'm supposed to be keeping quiet. People would tell you that with this, I was in the supermarket today, and somebody was saying, "But you shouldn't be in here. You should be home. You have to be careful." But I think I still am trying to follow instructions. So I'm happy to be with you. And so really and truly interesting as I listened, Marcia, when we spoke, I told you that if I had to put a title on what I want to say, I would be saying something like contradictions. And as I listen to CASWELL, there are a lot of them in there. And I feel CASWELL's pain. Sorry if my eyes might be a little bit thing. I probably should put on these fancy dark shades. I don't know if you want to see me in them, Marcia. I might not be able to see.
I would.
you want to see me in them? I will put them on just for you, CASWELL.
Good.
But I was assured that I could do without them, even with the lights in the house. So, but you know, as I look around what's happening, and there are contradictions. I mean, the government has promised us transparency, good governance. And I agree with Senator Watson, please send in your submissions. But the reality is, you are doing something that goes against the rules. And I think CASWELL explained, so I'm not going to spend more time. But so I say contradictions, those are examples of contradictions. If at the end of the day, if somebody challenges it, I mean, at least people have made their submissions. And I think that by now, if the Prime Minister doesn't understand, because I say the Prime Minister because her cabinet seems not to be Well, no, the bill has passed, and Mr. Thorne spoke about it. I mean, it
Yeah.
has passed the House. He is on the committee, so he has a chance to speak again. But I want to share a couple of these things because I've been trying to be good and not do too much research and reading, although I've been sitting in Zoom meetings and reading documents. But let me start with this Drax Hall land acquisition and the Prime Minister's international speeches about reparations within CARICOM. Professor Hillary, so Hillary Beckles is a chair of a committee which looks at reparations. He's been part of an international movement. In fact, I was looking, Marcia, at a group that I'm in, and they have something called there's the Global African Congress, and
Yes.
these are people who have been speaking at that. They have their Sunday International Solidarity sessions. And I know I got a note from one of the organizers of one of the sessions asking me if I would, but I said, well, I was very concerned. The reality is that I asked myself, what exactly is the Prime Minister purpose, objective, rationale, or reason for undertaking to acquire 50 acres of land using 8 million Barbados dollars at a time and at a time when you are in negotiations about reparations. Let me be very crass and say that as far as I can see, you are taking $8 million, 3 million pounds, I think was what was reported in the British press, to give to somebody with whom you're negotiating reparations for their part in slavery in Barbados. And they didn't come at the end. They came very early in the beginning, probably setting the standards for, for how plantation owners, did their business and treated our ancestors and so on. And so to me, I see it very simply as you're going to put money in his hand to give me back,
Mm.
you know? And then you're telling me that you want to acquire it for lower middle income housing or something like that. My question is this. Does the government not have a land bank? How critical or how urgent is this? Let's first look at that. There are several elements to this. It's wrong from the perspective of the timing, the context in which you're doing it against the background of negotiating reparations, against the comments of I think he's a politician in relation to his relationship to Drax Hall Plantation in Barbados. It is wrong from the perspective of I cannot understand the urgency and the prioritizing of the acquisition of this land for the purposes identified. First of all, Drax Hall Plantation suggests agricultural land. Drax Hall, as far as I know, unless it has moved, is in St. George. St. George and St. Thomas are what I would call the breadbasket areas of Barbados when it comes to agriculture in terms of soil depth, soil quality. And so I'm not an agriculturalist, but I've driven around this country. So why are you taking that kind of land out, you know, in that kind of agricultural belt? I know that, as I said, the government has a land bank. I also know that while I was part of a cabinet between 2008 and 2018,
Yeah.
there was an initiative where government took marginal lands and they weren't taking large chunks. They were looking in areas where you probably had tenantries, etc. And there were marginal lands, part of plantations, maybe part of properties owned by government or whatever, which could be acquired. But they were like what we call infills. So you weren't taking huge plots, but rather looking at areas which, in the case of in the agricultural belt, would not have been, prime agricultural land, and therefore you would take those off. But before we get there, what are we doing? What are we doing about the properties that have the lands that have been started, the lands in the land bank? I believe that the land bank, the term, and CASWELL can correct me, started probably under an Oinata administration when they talked about creating a land bank. And so really and truly, I really don't understand why you would do that, So we all know about the history, context, etc. Now, the other contradiction that I found, I know a little bit about management and decision making in terms of teaching people about and applying it, how you make decisions and what are some of the more efficient and effective ways to do so. But I noticed that the Prime Minister has adopted a style which has grown thin on Barbadians when you run into trouble by making bad decisions to come back and say, we have listened to Barbadians. Listen first, rather than listen after the fact when you mess up. So you are now listening to the international uproar. You're listening to the Barbadian comments, etc. Why didn't the planners, the persons who conceptualized this deal, not listen to all that was happening in Barbados, outside of Barbados, around the very plantation Drax Hall, around the issue of reparations? So that really is a problem. So my thing is there's an efficient way of making decisions, and don't try to dress it up fancy when you're finished messing up and coming back and saying that you've listened and blah blah blah, and you're pausing. Not
Yeah.
pause, and I want to share another thing. I don't know if you were able to. So I think I've said enough about Drax. So I just want to use another area of what I consider contradiction.
Yeah, and
As
then
you
did you
know,
have some pictures that you
yeah,
wanted
that's
to
what I
share?
want to talk about. As you
Right.
know, Marcia, I for the last, I would say at least 20 years, have taken the time, maybe as much as 6 days a week, to go to the beach for an hour. That's my relaxation, my socializing with retirees, having fun. When I was working, relaxing before going off to work and so on. And I tend to go. I started out in closer to Pile Bay. That's where I used to go as a child. So then I came up to the Brandons in the area of where the monument, the name for the highway, the Mighty Grinder Highway is. And anybody who is familiar with that piece area, is we have there's a bit of wetland right there, and I have noticed over the last several months the total deterioration of that area. Now, wetlands serve a very important purpose, and I'm not a scientist and so on, but people understand that that's in the beach area and those things. So if you can look, there's a picture which shows the actual name, the sign, but this is part of what's happening now. So if you look at this, you would notice that there's a large area of water and some trees that are pretty denuded. So they're looking like they're dying, and it is not that it is dry season. I have never, and I grew up in this area, I have never seen trees in this condition, because the interesting thing is that there's always some kind of moisture, even if it is not, but what we have now is a significant pool of what I would call stagnant salt water. And the trees are dying. And if you look, there's some other pictures, you would see some other images, but there's one where there's full greenness. There's one here, well, there's where you can actually see a stretch of green, healthy looking trees. That's another example of what's happening now. These were taken probably sometime last week, certainly in the last 7 to 8 days. But so if you look here, all you're seeing is water. You're hardly seeing any trees. Before, you could hardly see the water in there. And okay, this is another one where the trees are disappearing. Because if you see there's another one very green
Where is
where
this
in
location, Miss McLean? Exactly where
this
it is
is right
described?
next to, as I say, next to the signage on the Mighty Grinder Highway,
Ah,
where you have there's that right by the sign, there's a step there, and then there used to be a fairly lush green stretch, and you would see a picture of that. I think I would have sent one of those pictures. But for me, if you look at this now, what is happening here, there's a loss of a lot of the trees. I mean, when you pass there, normally you wouldn't see these open spaces and trees looking like this, because typically once there was rain, you would get some moisture. But what is happening now? There's
mhm.
a construction activity going on, and my understanding is that what is happening, they are pumping salt water, seawater, into that area. Now, if you look at that, normally with rainfall, it would, it would be absorbed, it would dry up, and so on. But that water just sitting there, and from my observation, it is getting more and more. These, as I said, these are examples of how it looks now, and at least there should be one. I think I would have attached one picture where you can see a full set of greenery. And my concern is, has anybody in the appropriate ministries related to environmental matters monitored this, even are noticing it, are tracking this? Because my worry is that I imagine within another 2 months or so, if this continues like this, there'll be hardly any vegetation at all. And my question is, to what end, with what consequences? Because we cannot be talking about, you know, paying attention to and prioritizing, you know, environmental matters in a positive way, and then seeing something happening that it is causing destruction. Because when I look at that water, the question is really, I believe so, because it is seawater as far as I know. And the question is, because when you would see the pipes taking the water over there, and I've looked at it for almost a year now, and several months, and it is just really, really creating problems. And my question is, how, when we say we subscribe to these principles and practices of trying to build a green economy and all of these things, where do we start? What basic, what simple things do we do or not do to demonstrate that we are not only paying lip service, and there are other things you can look at. I believe that CASWELL, and this is just showing you, well, there you see the pipe, this blue pipe running out there, and it's, look at it. Look at it. These, yeah, I mean, when you park there, you could not typically, if you're at the car park, you could not see through the
Yeah,
trees in the way that you're seeing now. I
I
mean, this
know
is,
exactly where we are now. Wow.
and that is what we're dealing with. I mean, I watched it. I said, well, this may be temporary, and the thing smells as well.
Oh my.
Um,
So
some
who's building? What are they building close to it? Because it seems
it
from the
is it is
construction.
it is some I think townhouses. There's this. I didn't capture the sign of thing, but they're townhouses. And all I will tell you is, the prime minister and I share same initials, and I suspect that the builder shares the same initials as us. I'll leave it right there. You bright. You
Wow.
can understand.
You, you
You
know,
know.
you know, this is this looking at this, Miss McLean, I'm remembering the presentation that was actually made on this show from the persons from Bannantyne. And if Caswell probably remember the name of the gentleman, the first one who came on. And he was talking about the where is this water going to go, when the construction starts and the soil erosion and all of that. And it's kind of strange for all of these things to be happening, and it's the citizens that are crying out about it, and not our leadership, when we are supposed to be leading the Caribbean in these environmental issues. Isn't it interesting?
Yeah, but Marcia, I mean, I am even feeling, because when I look at that picture, the angle that I was looking at just now, I called it bald, because looking at the car park and standing there, this is the first time I realized on the inside, because that empty area by the container, I'm really seeing the difference, because as I tell you, that is an area that I traverse. Um, I traverse day, well, not Sundays, but some weeks Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is, I mean, I am waiting to see what it will look like when I go back to swim, because I can't go back I can't do, I don't see myself getting back to the beach based on instructions before late June, mid to late June. And no, I don't know with the salt whether mosquitoes will I hope not that the salt may prevent them, but I don't know anything about, but it really is a problem. It's a problem,
Yeah, and it seems like this is the same a possibility. I'm not. This is not my area. I'm not an environmentalist, but I'm just listening to what Mr. Knox had shared, and Mr. Banfield. It seemed to me that this is a kind of possibility of some of the issues that might happen there in Bannantyne. I'm
Right.
sure you've heard what they were sharing about Bannantyne and where's that water going to go if they
Yes,
start to
yes.
build, because it's like we're just gonna make the place all concrete. What about the green economy?
Yeah, no, you're correct. You're correct. That's why I talk about contradictions. That you will have some nice well, the other concern, I mean, I like the sea, but I am not so sure when I've seen that water, that very calm water, become a little bit treacherous. In fact, sadly, we would have lost one of our long-term beach buddies some months ago to those waters, which are usually so nice and calm, but can become treacherous, and this is why wetlands, because you would be surprised in very bad weather how water can travel across that space.
Yeah,
But I am concerned because why is it that we say these things, but somehow we circumnavigate them
mm-hmm.
for sometimes for some people. And don't tell me it is in the name of whatever development or whatever, because if looking at this, is this the price we pay? And the question I would ask, because building
There's a noise coming through, Miss McLean. There's a noise, something coming through.
I'm not sure. Maybe
That's
I don't
better
know.
now. That's better now.
Yeah, maybe I was touching something. The question I would ask is, if you well, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a scientist, but I would expect that because of the proximity to the water, if a child goes and starts to dig in the sand, at a certain point the sand gets wet and so on, you know, as you go further down, which means you're getting closer to water, which means that there must be a permanent pumping arrangement that has to be put in place. Now, if that is the case, why are we doing this now, and for how long?
Right.
And having seen the kind of rapid deterioration in the condition of the trees, because these are not little plants, these are trees that were there for a while. When you see that deterioration, what's the plan?
Yeah.
Who's asking? Or is it that some people can do what they like? I don't, I raised it quietly with somebody, because I taught 1,000,001 people in Barbados, and I spoke to a couple of people in areas in government and said, can you find out if this thing is being looked at long before this happened? Because I imagine trees don't grow in the sea or in ponds of water that come from the sea. So my take is that if that is there long enough, it will do damage to the plants. And so the question really is, are people monitoring this? But we shall see. It is
Yeah.
bothersome though. It is bothersome.
Yeah, we really need to look into it, and this is why I say all of these issues, Mr. Franklin, they all come together. This listen to Miss McLean. I keep hearing Mr. Knox from Bannantyne. I'm seeing. Like it's almost like I could see the picture of what they're talking about. And we think of Joe's River, Mr. Franklin, of them wanting to put a 7 foot a 7 foot wall in the middle of the river. How is that going to affect the atmosphere? How will that affect those little creatures living in the river? How will it affect the environment? Or wetlands, all of these different things, and it is amazing that where all of our where is it? Don't we have a department that deals with environmental issues? Where
We
are
do.
they? Where
We
are they
do.
at this time?
Marcia, that was what I was going to intervene to say. That if you
Yes.
look,
Yeah. Fix the mic. Yeah.
if you look at all of these issues, they stem from one department, Planning and Development Department. Who is the minister responsible? The Honorable Prime Minister. So all of these issues um, have something to do with the Prime Minister's portfolio. That is why I say it is not mere cares, it is mere scares. Scare the
Mm.
hell out of me.
Yeah, so you're saying they're all connected to the planning and development. There has some because somebody has to make that give that permission, and it's coming from that department. And could it be because
No,
she's a
but not only that department, because of the sensitive nature of the things, the minister must make these decisions. Even if the departments don't agree, the minister will make the decision one way or the other. So it is, unless the minister says, I recuse myself and I can't do it because it's my family or my whatever, or my close relation, whatever, the minister is the one to make these decisions.
But I'm seeing Mr. Lewis, and in the meantime, Mr. Franklin, check on that microphone. You were so loud and strong at the beginning, and we don't want to lose you because people are messaging. They want to hear about the prison, but I'm gonna bring in Joe's River and leave the prison for the end. So don't you worry. The messaging me that he lost. He used the time to talk about the cybercrime bill, which I'm happy about because we needed to get that point out. But before the night is up, he's gonna talk about that thing with the prison. Don't you worry. So, but I want to segue for another say 15 minutes into this section with about Joe's River, because we're not leaving these environmental issues up. We're gonna keep on them because we are nearing an environmental crisis in Barbados with our czar is here. She is she's a leading person on environmental issues in the Caribbean. But I want the international press. I want people to, if you have connection with the international press, let them come in and investigate what is happening down there at Joe's River, what they propose to do, what they're proposing to do at Bannantyne, what they're doing here on the highway, all of this construction, how it's affecting our environment. But we're going to show two videos before Victor from Joe's River come in and speak to us. So let's have those two videos, please. Thank you so much, Dave.
We're going east from Carmichael to St. George. You can see it on the right there, there's the Barbados Trailway and the map of Barbados showing east down the trailway. You can see a rest point there with the QR code giving you the history of the trailway. When you need some information, you can sit down and relax on the photos. A whole lot of this railway that ran from Bridgetown right up onto Belplain in St. Andrew. We're looking down the railway there on to the western side. There's some beautiful photos on the inside, and we're looking east now on the railway. This is the point lower down from the west point. We can see the beautiful walls to the right and the left, and there's about 12 to 14 feet between those walls. A lot of space utilized in terms of the development policy that was mobilized for this portion of the railway. You can see the palm trees to the left and also the palm trees to the right. You can see the width of land that was used to develop this portion of the railway. And we want to compare this to what we are experiencing in George River. We want to
Okay.
see if, in actual fact, if the policies are the same and what are the major differences. Now, when we think of development, it has to be consistent. So what I obtained here in Carmichael, we want to see a reflection of it. Look at the amount of land here being utilized. We have this now, a little exercise um, mechanism for all Barbadians to go and use. But look at the quantity of land that was engaged for this project. And we want to make a comparison between this and Jules River.
Okay, I think the other one, yes, let's play the other one. Is it playing well for anybody? Because it's taking. Okay, it's taking. Go ahead. What we can do probably, let's go ahead and then we will try to get it in properly to play. But go ahead. Welcome, Victor. And can you explain to us what we were seeing there? 'Cause the volume was low.
Well, what we were seeing there really is a portion of the area.
Okay, you're listening to something? Are you listening to something right now?
No, I'm not listening to anything. I just heard the noise come up on the mic, so it seems to be coming from someplace else.
Oh wow, you're getting some interference.
Yeah, it's out now, so I don't know if it's coming from your end.
Oh, could be my
Oh yeah,
end.
yeah. That's the video there that they've just brought on. So if you can go ahead and play that video.
Okay, we're going to try to play it because the other one, people weren't hearing it properly. Dave, can you try it?
Pointing the camera to the east. So I'm pointing in the direction of Bathsheba. I'm under the bridge, and this is where we are. That's your bridge there on the top.
This is what I'm going to suggest. Dave, can you play the video and stop the audio? And Victor, can you narrate? No.
No, let the audio go.
No, because we're not hearing it properly. That's the problem. We can. The people are not hearing it. They're saying that they're not hearing. The volume is low, and somebody just wrote in caps here. So I think the way to save this is if we cut the volume and you speak as loud as you can over it. We will stop the volume.
No problem with that. Start it over again.
Start it, Dave, and cut the volume. Thank you.
Right. So that's the wall. I'm standing there under the bridge. All right. So I am looking at the wall. That's the first wall if you're coming from Bathsheba. So I'm now pushing the camera in the air, and it will show the base of the bridge. And the width of that bridge is about 7 feet wide. I'm dropping a perpendicular from the top of the bridge to the ground. So when I go to the right, that portion over there is called a web. This is the second column, which would have been to the back of me. So they intend to build a fencing between this wall here that we're seeing now and the other column that you saw. But most importantly, you want to see that web. If you can stop the video right there, stop the video right there. Beautiful. So if you can stop it, right. So you see that wall there going off to the right. That is a web. And you have a web on both sides of that wall. The function of that web really is to stop any torque on the bridge. When the train is passing over the bridge, the actual weight of the train and the movement of the train can induce a torque on the bridge. So the actual webbing on both sides of that column. So there are 4 columns. This is the first one from Bathsheba that has the web in it, and there's a web on both sides. And then on the other side of the bridge, on the Katawa side, there's a large boulder. But large boulders on both sides. It was a very large one to the landward side of that column. So those two, they are now to stop the bridge, stop any movement in the bridge. Continue the video. So over that side here to the right, that's the gully. So I'm pointing now to the other side. That's the web. Stop the video there again. Right. So the distance from the end of that web to the web we saw just now is in actual fact, the distance there is 55 feet. 55 feet from one end of the web to the next.
Yeah.
That construction was made by the individuals who was responsible for the train line. Now, it was sent to us, and this came out after the fact. And let me read it here for you. Just give me 2 seconds. Let me just pull it up and read it here for you.
Yeah, and push your volume a little bit more for me.
Okay, no problem. Now it's, and this was coming from the guy who was with me, and I say it was, you know, on the court injunction, Chris Oliver. And Chris Oliver said, "Good day, folks. We have some legal traction on our matter. We must file by May 8th, 2024, meaning now file officially in court." And this is one item. He's saying the path of the footbridge is not the only area owned by the train company. There is a 7-foot setback on both sides of the bridge that belong to the train company. So while we were all the time fussing about the actual bridge that we are allowed to walk across, and the first intention was by the developers was to build walls opposite both sides of the entrance to the bridge. So now, all of a sudden, come out the blues, we're now hearing that we have a 7-foot setback on either side of the bridge. On either side of that bridge, each web spans 24 feet. So you have 24 feet going out to the end of the web, the base, and 24 feet on the other side, plus 7 feet of the width of the bridge. So that gives us something like 55 feet in width from one web end to the next web end. So that is the portion of land that is owned by the government of Barbados. Now, we just can't consider the 55 feet. We've also got to consider the fact that you can't go and build that structure on a span of 55 feet. You need extra room. So let's add on 10 feet on both sides because you need room to construct. So if you add on 10 feet on both sides, you're up to about 75 feet of width and not 7 feet. And where the policies will vary between what we saw there in Carmichael, right? You can see the amount of land that was used there in Carmichael to develop that portion of the railway. You have a big span of bridge. When we look at that, the bridge we saw, you know, that the 14-feet span. Then we saw the exercise area. Then we saw the restroom and everything for history. All of that span they're taken up, and they're leaving that in Carmichael, a policy that was mobilized there, maximizing room for construction, giving exercise areas while they're designing that, while they have designed that area for physical exercise in Carmichael. I want to say to all those in charge, to all those responsible, to the Planning and Development Committee, that we have a wellness sanctuary in Joes River, wherein we are identifying with, we want to keep in harmony our mental health. While you are focusing for physical health in Carmichael, we are focusing additionally, because we hike all through those areas too for our physical health. But most important, our mental health. That is our wellness sanctuary. So the policy that has been mobilized in Carmichael, accepted. Good job, well done. But what we are seeing now in Joes River is not consistent, because no one can go. You cannot come with the same policy to develop Carmichael with that same policy to develop a bridge, because a bridge needs a wide span. It needs webs on both sides, and the actual web span gives us 55 feet minimum. But I'm saying for construction purposes, you're going about 75 feet of span.
Right.
So the policy then for building a bridge for a train is different to the policy for building that path in Carmichael. Yet they take up a lot of room, a whole lot of room They build rest area, they build exercise area, they build bridge, they put in plants, everything for Carmichael. Wonderful. We applaud it because we use it as Bajans, but we also use Joseph for our mental health and for our physical health.
Yeah, somebody is saying very contradictory policy. So just let me say, if Dave could put up the other video without the audio and just just let it play. What he's saying is that in Carmichael, the policy that was adopted there is that, listen, this part of this belongs to the government, and so they develop it and create a pathway for exercising, for bike riding, and so on. However, when it came now to Joe's River, almost that policy is thrown out the door.
But not only throwing out, Marcia, not only throwing out, don't make it sound so easy. What you're patting people on the backs for? No. The first intention at Joe's River was to block us out. The first intention at Joe's River was to build 2 walls on the left and the right and block us out. That was the intention. That is what, in actual fact, Planet and Development sat down and that is what they decided to do. And after that, they want to have a little mercy on us. And I don't.
Yeah, turn off the audio, please. Turn the audio off. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. So after that, now they want to come now and, kind of feed us with the whole idea that they will assist us in entry to Teacup and Saucer and to the Joseph Gully.
Right. So this is Carmichael. For those who are watching, especially overseas, they don't, because I didn't know this was Carmichael until you said it.
Yes, that's Carmichael.
Yeah.
When you come from the turnpike and you turn right and going across the District D. And those are the big lovely walls that were built. Those are these soft stone walls that were built. But when you go down there further now, you see the trees to the left and the trees to the right. And you can see the width of that span between the two of those walls there. That's around 14 feet. That's the bridge that was, a little bridge there that was built. Water can flow under. You can see the nice trees planted on the left and planted on the right. Beautiful. We applaud that. That's commendable. But when you come now to Joe's River, the first intention was to block us out from areas that we owned. We own that land in Joe's River. By prescriptive rights, we own it in terms of passage, but also in terms of land ownership. 7 feet on both sides. When we come to Joe's River Bridge, 7 foot on both sides do not apply. It only applies when you go to Carmichael. But when you come to Joe's River, the building policy is different because you have got to now design a bridge at that height. And the higher the columns go, the greater the web must be.
Yeah.
So
somebody's asking, Mr. Franklin is asking, are you sure that the government did not sell the railway lands to the developer?
Well, that's a wonderful question. That's a wonderful question. Whether they didn't sell it to the developers. So you're saying now that in actual fact, the land under the bridge is not government. All right.
Turn off the audio. Thank you very much. Yeah. If we could get the audio of the video off. Thank you.
So I'm also of the view, yes, that the government could have sold the land to the developer. But how could Town and Country Planning, how could NCC, how could Soil Conservation, how could National Trust sit back as entities within the Planning and Development Department and sit down and allow this to happen? How could some person, having interest in the environmental issues in Barbados can allow people to sit down and plan to build a 50 feet long wall, 7 foot high on top of a ridge looking across Bathsheba? How could an environmentalist, how could any person, now I really have a lot of respect for the actual departments that were called that were named on the Planning and Development Committee. And I would want to say what I am seeing coming out in terms of proposal for development in that area, it is not reflective of what I know should be coming off to those departments. Those people are far more competent. But what I am seeing materializing on those documents as part of site plans is total ignorance, is an embarrassment, is an insult to the people of Barbados. What transpired at Carmichael is far removed from what we are seeing here in St. Joseph. It is not consistent and it seems to be dictatorial. One person calls the shots.
Yes, and it goes back to the planning and development, that arm of government. No, Mr. Franklin, any thoughts on this before? Oh, Mr. Murray is back in. I didn't because there was something wrong with his mic. Mr. Murray, my apologies. Let me just bring him in. Let's see here. Okay.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Franklin. Give us a short comment and then over to Mr. Murray. Thanks. You're muted, Caswell. Thank you.
I said, let me defer to Glenn because I made my comment. You see, I typed into I learned how to do that just the other day.
Okay, let me
So
let
I
me go to
practice it.
Glenn. Let me go
Yeah.
to Mr. Murray. Any thoughts on what you're hearing there?
Well, the truth is, I had stored some thoughts from the time we were talking about 2 or 3 subjects ago. Anyhow, the thing, you remember I deliberately sought out the names on the board, the Plan Development Board.
Yes.
But in addition, there's a paragraph in that document that I quoted from, which was pitched at the development prospect development of Barbados, in which the Prime Minister, and these are very ominous words, I have not forgotten them since then. They've been haunting me, where she brags about the extensive amendments that had been made to the town plan, and now they have to the 50-year town plan. Now they have a brand new town and plan development act, favorably with a presumption favorable to development, with a presumption favorable to development. I've not been able to forget those words. In other words, what you are saying now, to my mind, is a manifestation. Is that when you apply, you presume you're going to get what you want, and what people are getting now is what they want and what they apply for. So when you were saying not that you apply, you look at all the criteria, all the submission, all the regulations, all the plans, but all of that is done while there's a presumption that you're going to get development permission. So you're going through the motions. The whole thing is horrendous. And I think what Maxine spoke about now, Brandon, I used to pass that way before there was a highway. I used to come across Deacons and go to the sea when when you saw the trees. There used to be a pond. There used to be a river where we would fish thousands and crab, and then you get to sea. So that whole area has been desecrated, destroyed, and I understand that the person involved, that there's a move effort to buy. I was alerted when the first house was put up for sale, and they saw the sign. I think I have a picture on my phone about it too. There's a move to buy all those lovely old Barbadian houses, bungalows, etc., on Brighton Road, and turn them into houses, which is what Maxine spoke about. There's all plan of an overall plan for redeveloping that area. And if something's not done, we're going to lose out big time. But that is a tragedy, what Maxine was able to see. I understand what you feel. I bathed there. I've done many things in that area as a boy, as a youngster. And to see it come to that, deliberately so. We used to be able to fish, catch crab. There was vegetation. There was water all the time. It was alive. The environment was alive.
Yes.
It was a part of a wetland that we inherited. I was there, but now it's an embarrassment as to what it used to be. And Barbados, whoever is responsible for hold their heads in shame and say, what are we doing to Barbados for the sake of quote unquote development, concrete, and money in people's pockets? How is it being translated into the enrichment of Barbadian lives and making Barbados a better place? Concrete jungle. And I think that phrase, you apply it with a presumption of favorable to development. So you can bet your life the cards and the stack are all stacked heavily in favor of your getting your permission to develop. And that is what we're seeing everywhere.
Wow.
I'm really hurt as it to see it manifested before my eyes.
Yeah, it's a really, I mean, listening to you talk and and to everybody tonight. To me, I wrote down here, Mr. Franklin, we need to do a whole show on this environmental crisis that we are having in Barbados. Our wetlands are being destroyed, or there's soil erosion, all kinds of things. As you put it, is a concrete jungle that they are creating for us to live in, and we are supposed to accept it. No discussion with the citizens. Nothing at all. Yeah, we're destroying the ecosystem. Correct, Kensley McCullen. About that. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I,
I,
I'm I'm seeing Miss McLean coming back on. We'll just take say about 3 minutes and close off this section here. Any comments, Miss McLean, before we go right back to Victor to close this section? You're muted, Miss McLean.
Yeah, I was saying that there are some issues that are related that we really have to connect with, because, and you use the word concrete jungle. Apart from the destruction of the environment, one of the things that we're going to have to look at is the impact of certain ways of building, because our temperatures are changing, and we have been hearing about mold and so on in government buildings for a long time. But trust me, it is something that is turning up in residential, in homes. And I will get some more information on that. But, we really have to pay some attention to how we are doing things around here, especially where we are paying lip service in the international arena. If we want to be an exemplar, we have to not only talk it, we have to walk it and live it. And there are a number of issues that, and I would end by saying that there are a whole set of contradictions. That's the phrase, the term, the word I use, not phrase. The word I used when I started, that we are living a set of contradictions which are not good for this country, and we are paying dearly for it.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Miss McLean. And Victor, once again, thank you so much for bringing this to attention. We do have a big hike and cookout. Just start smiling because I've been Rose River. Good for my mental health, especially after a week like this week. What's your final word to the people? Coming to come down to Rose River on Monday. I think it's 5:30 in the morning there at St. Elizabeth School. Any last thoughts on that you want to share with the people?
Yeah, not 5:30. They're coming for quarter to six.
Come a little closer to the microphone, or I don't know how your mic is set up, but
Yeah.
speak up, yeah, a little louder, yeah.
My mic should be here.
Yeah, it's not very clear.
Yeah, they're
No,
coming
no,
for quarter.
no. We are hearing them clearly, Marcia. It might be yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we're coming for quarter to six. We're meeting on the St. Elizabeth Primary School pasture. Then we'll be going down Cleaver Hill, and then we're gonna take our hike area. Then from Joseph Bridge, we're coming right up to Garrick Hill. Then we're gonna have a wonderful cookout. Then in the springs, that's another spring that is adjacent to the St. Elizabeth Primary School area. It's a wonderful place to be, to see the water springing out the earth. It's beautiful. So
Marcia, might I be so rude as that, Mr. Lewis?
yes, sir.
There is a big function on East Coast Road
I
on
know.
the 29th.
I know.
Why don't you put on your shirts and visit it? The Prime Minister is bound to be there. Let her go to a ready-made audience where she is the decision maker. She's the big point, and let a group of you in your shirts. No, but you're not demonstrating. It's open to the public. You're made a visitor and a sightseer, and let them see your shirts and your protest. A ready-made audience.
We appreciate all that, we appreciate all that, Mr. Moore, but there comes a time in life where we know that the message has been sent. The message is clear, you know. So there comes a time where you got a timeout, as Maxine said, go to the beach. But we're not going to the beach,
Okay.
Maxine. We may end up there, but we're gonna go to the river and relax and enjoy ourselves. There's a time for that, Murray, and that time
I
will
gotta
come.
say this, Victor. I
Yeah.
cannot undertake any strenuous walking around at this point in time. They told me that the first 2 weeks after surgery to the eye is supposed to be quiet. But I hope that y'all are planning to make this, and I would use the language community tourism activity where people will pay and come and participate in something like this, you know, routinely, because there's so many things about Barbados that I mean, I've driven through that area a couple times because I had relatives visiting, you know, from England, the States, and so on recently. But to do a hike in that area and to do a cookout. I remember, in fact, something else before I stopped, Marcia. We used to go to moonlight picnics along the East Coast and Bathsheba
Mhm.
area years ago. I mean, you know, and I don't know if in all your years of living here, Marcy, if you ever went on a moonlight picnic,
No,
but
never.
you know, but if the numbers are large enough, I guess it would be safe enough. But I'm just saying, Victor, that you're sitting on. I'm putting on my marketing hat and my business hat now on what I consider to be an excellent, you know, kind of activity for locals in the first instance, because I think that we in Barbados have to learn to appreciate the beauty of, and that's that part of Barbados I love. It is so different. From the time I was a
Beautiful.
schoolgirl doing geography, we had
Mhm.
a wonderful geography teacher who used to really talk about the topography and so on of that area of Barbados. And I know Mr. Oliver, so I know his passion for that area as well. So
Yeah.
think about it. And I would be one of the first clients, you know, to do that and bring a whole set of people. In fact, I might treat it as a family reunion. I
Maxine,
come from a very big family.
that area and that spot was designated as a hiking trail from the George
Right.
River Bridge straight to Geisel. That was a proposal that would have been made a hiking trail. I do identify with an individual who said that the government could have sold the land, but the government would not have sold that land because it is part of the water authority in terms of the flow over the bridge. It is a
Mhm.
heritage. It is a heritage park, and there's so many things that points to ownership for the government for that. So I do appreciate the whole concept of the selling of the land. But when we think of the river and when we think of the bridge and the adjacent dimension, of those two entities, we cannot separate the fact that it is well known not only by Town Country Planner, but by the whole of Barbados, by the international world, for all those individuals who come down there and do their hikes and do their videos in George River. So that plan was part of a proposal to have that as a hiking area. And as much as they developed Carmichael to be an area where you go and you do your running, you can run from all down in town and come up to your Carmichael area and then rest and relax and do your 2 exercises, etc. That's wonderful. But for the George River area, that was designated to be a hiking trail from George River to Gagsa.
Marcia, and the other assignment is that you can do some kind of movie capturing these areas as central to that. But we can talk about that another
We
time.
will talk about that. We will talk about that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Victor. You have us all here dreaming and imagining and all of
Mm,
that. It's beautiful.
mm,
I'm
sweet,
gonna be
sweet.
there on Monday, God willing, at 5:45 a.m. for the hike and cookout. And Caswell is
Mm,
coming only for the cookout. Okay,
mm,
and but it's gonna be fun, guys. And wear comfortable shoes. You can park your car right there at St. Elizabeth Primary School, and we're gonna have a blast. All right. So please, please, please come out. Thank you so much, Victor, and over to Mr. Franklin, because everybody wants to know about what happened with this. There's a lot going around about you and this prison and everything. So everybody want to hear about that.
Yes, thanks, Marcia. I've been getting some calls, WhatsApp messages, and even video of people condemning me and saying I should apologize. If I am wrong in any way, I'll be the first to apologize. But you must first show me that I am wrong. I am not one of those people who cower and get fearful of officialdom. But it is amazing when you hear the comments. The minister and the press said that he's not going to debate with me in the press. I don't want to debate with the minister. I just want the minister to do the right thing. However, there are putting out statements that don't make sense. We have a person calling himself Sluggy Dan. As a matter of fact, the first time I heard the name was only yesterday, because I don't know about those people. And he purports to be working with this program where you pay people not to kill other people, and the government will pay them. He decides that there are no killers in the program. That's why you're paying them, to make sure they don't kill anybody. That's what he said. However, what bothers me is that he is now working for the government and he is making statements on behalf of the government. If I know the general orders, and I do, that's an offense. You see, they're bringing their people and they can do anything they like. I'm not saying that he shouldn't speak up or tell somebody what the position is and let the minister or the permanent secretary speak up on them. No, I don't want to say nincompoops. These people rushing out there because they feel they have a license to come and make things. But I'm glad that he did, because I said on the show tonight that they found a dongle and some flash drives.
Yes, that's what you said. Yeah.
The minister said that there were just 2 flash drives and no dongle. Sluggy Dan comes back and say it was a dongle.
Mm-hmm.
So he and the minister did not sit down together and cooperate. I was not at the prison. I don't ever expect to go to prison unless this cybercrime bill passes. And so what I receive will be information that was passed to me. But the information that was passed to me seemed to be more credible than what the minister is saying or what Sluggy Dan is saying. Because here they're saying these things, but the minister has peace unless there were more than one instance where people from the program got caught and they was talking about one, the minister talking about another.
Mm-hmm.
That could be it. Because how can you, in all conscience, keep the reins so rigid on prison officers? A prison officer, there's no food at the prison at night for prison officers to buy from the canteen or anything like that. So a fellow would bring up some snacks to eat because you're working right through the night. And one man with a couple of suppligens and some packs of biscuits to munch on, they were seized, police were called, and he went before the court. So don't tell me that the police decides who people are going to let go and who police are not going to let go. Because they had a prison officer suspended from the performance of his duties while the case was going on. He was suspended on half pay. And that was for food. And not food to feed the prisoners. It was food because they might have no food up there to feed him. As a matter of fact, they're going to food there to feed the prisoners now. And the minister in telling you that they got prisoners on hunger strike, all that. No, that's what you should be concerned about rather than dealing with me. Because the food is so bad. People refusing to eat it. And then the dongle and the dongle and the flash drives. The minister only claimed flash drives. But the police, he is saying that the police, I know very well that the police get instructions and they follow them. That is why they put people in place to make sure that the police are compliant and obedient to the Barbados Labour Party. They made sure that their people hold the highest rank in the police force. Now, and then there was another incident where a prison officer, female prison officer, brought tattoo ink. Tattoo ink was not a banned item in the prison. As a matter of fact, during the case, because she was also charged criminally and put before the courts for bringing tattoo ink into the prison. And when they realized that the tattoo ink was not a banned item, they went and changed the sign and put tattoo ink on it. But that was too late because people had pictures of the original sign. And she was prosecuted. Now, tattoo ink and supplicant and biscuits can be a security threat to the prison. But a person who can access the internet from within the prison is not a threat. It's not a security threat. What is the minister saying to us? You know? And when you hear him, I made a comment to a person. I said, you know, it sounds like when the police just interview them and put them outside. It sounds like at night when the cat in the house and he want to go to pee, you just open it and put it outside. You don't treat people who knowingly smuggle things into the prison that they know should not be in there. And then you're going to tell me, or the police determined. No, what the police didn't determine that ink, tattoo ink, or biscuits weren't security threats and it was nonsense, and put them out and tell them, go along with this foolishness. We are too consumed with politicians making statements and believing them. We have to hold the politicians to account and say what you're saying does not make sense. You know? Well, I find it hard for Abrams to make sense, but at least he should try.
Yeah. You know, somebody said, case dismissed.
Case closed. Case closed.
Yeah, case closed. If I were in another place, I would say case closed.
Yes.
You know, but you know, this case cannot be closed because prison officers are being victimized and treated very badly. I'm going to give you an example now. Tomorrow, I am going to deal with a case to represent a prison officer who they claim was at a party with the inmates. All right? I'm not going to get into the evidence or anything like that. This was a paid function, and some former prisoners turned up at the thing. And they are trying to prosecute, get rid of these people from their jobs in the prison because prisoners turn up at the function, a paid function. Because they said they're associated with prisoners.
Yeah.
But, Marcia, that rule has been observed in the breach for so many years, it ain't funny. Because as we speak, there is a female prison officer who met and fell in love with a prisoner while he was in prison. When he came out of prison, the two of them got married and had a child. Now, if that is not associating with a prisoner, I don't know what is. She is still employed in the prison. Then there is another officer who turns up for duty every day, and her boyfriend brings her to the gate in front of the cameras and give her a kiss. He too is an ex-convict. But you are going to prosecute two people, and I'm going to tell you why they're prosecuting them. Prison officers have been working 12-hour shifts since COVID. Two of these officers came to see me because they were getting sick. They couldn't handle it anymore, and they're not even paying them for the overtime. 4 hours overtime every time they go to work, and you have to work 12 hours straight. You can't bring food because you get locked up for bringing food. You get charged. You can't bring supplement and them kind of things or biscuits. So you are working in the prison for 12 hours, and then you gotta go home, and your children are already asleep. Your husband might not be asleep because you work from home so often. He might be sleeping somewhere else. So these officers said, look, they went to the doctor. The doctor says it is too much for them, but they insisted. So when they came to me, I said, look, your shift is 8 hours. At the end of your 8-hour shift, go to your manager and say to the manager that at the end of my shift, I am leaving. They can ask me, there's no law in Barbados that can force you to work overtime. So those two officers who decided that they want to follow my advice, you can't charge them for not working overtime. So you charge them for being at a party that happened 2 years ago. The party happened 2 years ago, and they did nothing about it. But now they're dredging up those that they attended a function with the former inmates, when in fact they were not the only two. Not that I'm trying to get other people in trouble, but they only charged the two that decided, no, you just employed a lot of prison officers. They hire a lot. Why don't you put them to work and save the prison officers from themselves? Because a lot of them are getting sick, working too hard all the time. And you're going to get people who are going to be so brutal as to penalize people who are getting sick according to their doctors, not to mine. Because I didn't send them to any particular doctor. I don't do anything. And when they discovered from the doctor's reports that they were ill and cannot continue to work like that, I advised them. I'm going to say, I, Caswell Franklin, advise them. They can't force you to work overtime. They could ask you to work overtime for the exigencies of the service, like when they had COVID and they had the problems, and people were locked down and stuff, and some people, a lot of prison officers were aware. Yeah, you can do that, but you cannot continue to make them work 12 hours for the last 4 years.
Right.
It is unfair and it is unreasonable. And because those people stood up, you got to grind them into the ground. You got to come back. Something, as somebody says, the lawyers will call that acquiescence. I call it condonation. They condone their behavior after 2 years. And then you want to come out and say, oh, you're the only two that stand up to us. So we can show you, we can teach you a lesson. You know? And I don't know why somebody don't teach the superintendent a lesson until they go up on vacation. Because you ain't had no vacation now since, let me see if I write down the date correctly. Since October 2021. We'll not leave the position. We'll not let the body go in the office to see what's going on inside there.
How many years that is? 2022, 23, 20, over 3 years? He hasn't had any vacation? Could that be real?
Would not go. Because
his superiors can make him go.
Yeah, but the superiors don't interested in the book. He's not going anywhere. And I'm telling you, see, one of the things that I'm happy about is that I was sent to do a fraud exam course to detect fraud years ago when I was active in the credit union movement, and I was in supervisory committee, so they wanted us to have these special skills, and they sent me to CUNA fraud school in New Orleans. And one of the first thing they tell you is that if you have a person who deals with money and he is not going on vacation, something is wrong. Something is wrong.
And let me add that we do that in accounting, in auditing. That is one of the ways as an auditor, you know, those things are internal controls. One of your internal controls is that you must, your the staff must go on vacations, especially those that work, in particular area, but all of them. And once they're not, there's something the auditor is alerted. But just to confirm what you're saying.
Caswell,
Mhm.
can I ask you can I ask you a question?
By all means, please.
I've been hearing you saying that the prison officers work 12 hours there and don't get overtime. Aren't they subject to the flexi allowance that I helped to put in place for nurses and doctors and firemen to cover overtime?
If you
Don't
work
they
more
get
than
flexi allowance?
if you work more than the 12 hours, and there are some people like the people who take people to the hospital or take people to court, the judge ain't finished with you yet, or the doctor ain't finished with you yet, and your shift finished, they would not give a fella cent overtime. That flexible allowance thing, they ain't giving it to them. The last time I went to a meeting, Edmund Hinkson was minister at the time, and we were complaining about that flexible allowance. The permanent secretary, so one of the prison officials said they took the money and bought a generator. Mind you, it was a second-hand generator they bought with the overtime money. You know you can't do that, but they did. That is the generator that went down when the power went off, and the prison just walked out of prison. And the permanent secretary said, "No, you can't do that. That's against the law. She's going to investigate it." This permanent secretary had 6 months to go before she went on pre-retirement leave. And quick saw the transfer her because she was not supposed to investigate what was going on in the prison. But you're going to investigate people for burning, supplicant, tattoo ink, and let go of people who should be locked up. I know the name of the prisoner who brought in the stuff, the ex-prisoner. I'm not going to call his name on this show because it is not fair to him. Because he said, I don't want David Simmons to call my name in the Senate, me and Marcy and Kim and everybody else, Maxine. I don't want to call his name. But you cannot. The prison needs to get rid of certain people from up there, and it will run better. Because right now, it is a den of thieves, a brothel, and all kind of things that is wrong with that prison, and nobody want to fix it. When that permanent secretary decided that she was going to do some investigation, she got transferred to spend her last 6 months in the new ministry. Glenn, you know that don't happen. You don't transfer a permanent secretary a couple of months before they go back to learn a new ministry. By the time you learn that ministry, you're gone.
But before you go, Caswell, I'm intrigued about this flexi allowance. Did the Prime Minister not say in the budget that she was enhancing or expanding for policemen and what when she was buttering up and sweetening up those category workers? So how can you be making more enhancing them and don't give it at all to prison officers? The two worlds?
Yes, two different worlds. And the prison officers
Amazing.
sit down and take it because they somehow believe that they are paramilitary and soldiers. They feel soldier like. No, they are not soldiers. They are mothers and fathers and husbands and wives and boyfriends and girlfriends that have responsibilities. And if you work overtime, you should be paid. You can't just take people and because you feel like you can command them. Because what they need is a new Prison Act, a modern Prison Act, rather than the draconian Prison Act that came from England. Because you must remember, these colonial laws did not care about us; they cared about the British. And those laws in England have gone long ago, but we still keep them. But because we want to still be when we got independent, we didn't get rid of the British. The white British, we bring some black Barbadian British to rule us. They are the overlords now. And we got too many of them in the prison. You're telling me that you are not going on vacation because you don't want a certain person act? Not kind of nonsense.
And a minister allows that? A minister allows that?
Who is better qualified than the same man?
Wow.
Yeah. Well, listen, I tell you, I'm listening to this and it sounds like bra. This is a whole set of things happening here. All these allegations.
That is because politicians get their hands on the public service and deal with things that do not concern them. Politicians should be out of the public service. That is why they want to go and bastardize the public service and every other department, the statutory board, because they can get their hands on everything then as a result.
Yeah. Guys, we are. Well, Miss McLean is still here, and I know that. Where is she? Oh, where is Miss? Okay, I was trying to find you there. Um, it is 10 o'clock, and we feel like we just started because Mr. Franklin is going at a mile a minute. But we're gonna close because we are gonna be back again on Friday. I know. Who is where? I'm wondering where the noise is coming from. Is it me? Okay, yeah, that's something. Yeah. Yeah, somebody says that like a soap opera scandal. Yeah, I'm telling you, this is so much material for a movie. It is unbelievable. But we are going to close. We will pick this up, Mr. Franklin. Want to hear more about the prison? Um, come Friday, come and hear more about it, more about the prison on Friday. We did not see Kimar tonight, but I can tell you that tomorrow there's a major thing that is happening where the leader of the opposition, Mr. Franklin, is having a press conference. Right, there is a press conference that is happening tomorrow at the office of the leader of the opposition, and as part of the press, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to seek to carry that live for the Marcia Week show viewers. All right, even I know people in the diaspora asking me, are you going to go, are you going to go? I'm going to go so I can carry that for you live. But tomorrow it is a press conference being put on by the leader of the opposition at the office, the opposition office, and you'll be able to see that, which is open to the entire Barbados. It's not a DLP office; it is the opposition office, based on my understanding of it. And I am the last person to direct to tell you where it is. When they come on tomorrow, the announcement will tell you where it is. Okay, I think that is important. And of course, we have the health festival information on the screen. I keep saying it's the 24th and the 25th. The 24th, Ms. McLean, is a private event, meaning I think there is an outing that they're going on, and I don't know if I'm at liberty to say all of that. But the 25th is what is a public event. The entire day, come and have lots of fun. Yeah, and so on. The press conference is at 11 a.m. So 11 a.m. Barbados time. Then you can log on, and we'll be able to carry that for you, so that you can join in and hear the leader of the opposition and see the space that they're operating in. It's 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock tomorrow. All right. Remember the petitions that we have. We have the petitions about Bannantyne. Don't forget Bannantyne. We're going to pick that up again on Friday. I'm going there tomorrow, Miss McLean. I'm actually going down there myself tomorrow, and I'm going back to Joe's River tomorrow after I leave the press conference. So tomorrow is quite a busy day. It takes a lot of pictures for you all to see, and we will be back on dealing with Bannantyne again on Friday. So we're not going to leave these issues alone. All right. Yeah. So those are by way of announcements. Listen out for the marches, and of course, tomorrow. Take a little time tomorrow. Take a little time tomorrow. Right now, that's the link for the petition that is on the screen, and the petition is going to go to the Parliament, and I think there are 4 other persons or departments that it's going to go to. I don't have all the information before me right now, but Ms. Watson has advised that it go to not just the Parliament but 3 others. So we're gonna work on that, but remember that take a little time tomorrow, gentle people. We've got homework. We have homework. We're all about change, and change is not going to come, just like that. So homework is that we are to make our submissions to Parliament Barbados at caribserve.com. Even if it is just a paragraph, that's okay. Write from your heart and be just be simple, but at the same time be forthright and be respectful as you are writing. Be concise, simple, respectful as you write your submissions. Parliament Barbados at caribserve.com. That has to do with the cybercrime bill. All right, very, very important. Well, we're closing, and let me go to Miss McLean. Any final words that you have to say to the viewers tonight?
Well, I think I've said a lot in terms of what I consider disappointments, but in all of this, let me just advocate that we look after ourselves. We look after ourselves. I have, had a lot of time to sit quietly and try not to disobey instructions and reading too much and moving too much. But I realized that health is precious, and when you are faced with something that is uncertain, you start to reflect, what can I continue to do, or what should I have done, or what might I do, or what happens if something doesn't go the way you expected, and so on. And it says that at the end of it, we have to take care of ourselves to take care of others. And I say that as I prepare to say farewell to an older cousin of mine tomorrow morning as well, because life is a cycle. But while we're at this point, take care of ourselves, as I say, to take care of others, because it is so important. And I am so happy to be back without the glasses. Blind, I don't know if you heard me when I started, but I've said this is the first time I've looked like this in public space. I can see it's over 50 years. So
you look beautiful.
oh yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And
Okay.
you can, so CASWELL, take it easy. I saw through CASWELL. Anybody who knows CASWELL, when he was in full flight today, as much as he was expressing his disappointment in a certain person, I saw the resolute CASWELL that I knew when he was a 20-something-year-old in the credit union movement.
It was the same way back then. Let's hear from Mr. Murray as we close. Mr. Murray, your final thoughts tonight.
Okay. Hi. I just want to say something in connection with what Maxine had spoken about earlier. Contradictions. This one involves the Prime Minister. I am puzzled. No, I hate to admit it, but at times I have to listen to what she says because of her position. I heard on your cast something is feeding into the mic somewhere. Is that okay? Good. Thank you. I heard a newscast today in which they are quoting the Attorney General as praising the Prime Minister having insisted to World Cup that online tickets, there must be another source of tickets other than online tickets in the Caribbean, because not everybody in the Caribbean is online, and therefore they must be accommodated. And I had to reflect. I wonder if that why should that principle allow to obtain for the Caribbean or be demand for the Caribbean? And in Barbados, the government is imposing restrictions on access to information through online. Again, the classic one is the official gazette. If you can insist to get tickets, you mean tickets for work are more important for keeping Barbados abreast of development, servicing them, and make life easy for them? Are you indulging more information starvation? So the same way you can demand that of the World Cup for Barbados and the Caribbean for online tickets, have your government implemented in a meaningful business for the citizens who pay the taxes that pay your bills.
Yes, wow. Thank you, Mr. Murray. Tonight we miss Timar, as I said, but I'm sure I'm going to see him tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. Mr. Franklin, what's your final word today?
I just want to follow on from what Glenn was saying. If you did literature and you read Henry IV, you will realize when Henry IV was dying, he told the Prince of Wales, his son who would become Henry V, that he wasn't going to be a good king. So he had to go and give the English an enemy. so they can have outward enemy, so they would not concentrate on him.
Mhm.
And so King Henry V attacked France. So what is happening here now? The government doesn't want us to concentrate on them, so they're giving us little things like facts. That's where you see we are developing but a botanical garden. But botanical garden is not a place to walk up and jump up. Botanical garden. Botanical means flowers. You know?
I call it big cane ground.
Yeah, but I back in there when we were supposed to be doing the cross country, we used to go in there and start cane. And when I hear the fellas coming back down, you know, I would never come up in the middle, because I could run fast. So when the fellas are finishing, I would come in the back and I would play coming on the road, guts full of cane, I could barely walk. So I have history in that ground. And I'm not going back now. You know, so the government is trying to distract us away from the things that's happening. Anytime at all you see the government doing something, they always have a red hand pulling across the trail, so people will concentrate on that rather than what they are doing. So it is the facts. It is all these jump ups and everything else, everything you do, and so just be careful with them. You know, but anyhow, enough of that. All I want to say is good night.
Good night.
And I hope to see you on Friday.
Yes. And let me just take the time to thank Sean Tudor for coming on with that great encouragement. And Senator Watson for the reminders concerning the cybercrime bill. Thank you so much for coming on. Of course, Mr. Murray, what a class we had this evening. That was a great class that we had this evening, as we were dealing with the cult of personality. Very interesting. And Miss McLean, wow, that's a whole nother issue. Now you make me want to pass by and look over there, that area. I have not driven that area in a long time. So, you know, and it inspires me. I want to do a show just on those issues, on the environment. I think that we need to spend like 3 hours looking at all the issues with that. Cousin Franklin, as per usual, thank you so much for standing up for the people of Barbados. You know, for deciding to stand up for us all. We really appreciate that, and for making it clear concerning just just the way things are done, and which reveals the motives. What are they really all about with this cyber bill? Yeah. And so we're going to see you tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll be logged on tomorrow at 11 a.m. Calvin. Those in the diaspora, that's 11 a.m. Barbados time. And we'll be logged on so you can hear the leader of the opposition, see the space that they're operating in tomorrow. Okay. So we'll be able to connect with you. Thank you all so much. Thanks to Dave for the technical. And we appreciated everybody sending in their pictures and their and everything to him. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please. The people want the song.
That mass nor English. Pretending to be good. Hey, pretending to be good. Just pretending to be good. Hey, pretending to be good. Hey, just pretending to care about people. 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 Pretending. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. I'm pretending to be good. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people.
Thank you so much, and thanks to Victor Lewis. I forgot Victor Lewis on Joe's River. All right, bye-bye, guys. Good night. Bye-bye, everybody. Sleep